Mhm. Good morning, everybody. Hope everyone's had a great, great start to your Wednesday as we are recording this. Let me make sure everything is set up. Good morning, Nikki. Good to see you here as usual. We are, let me see, we are live on Rumble. Good morning to everybody over on Rumble Studio. Good morning on YouTube. Good morning on X, Facebook. Good morning, LinkedIn. We are live on LinkedIn as well. Good morning, everybody over on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I can't even tell who's in here. I don't give you any data on LinkedIn. They just tell you that it's in there. Facebook, what's going on? Instagram, good morning over there on IG. And we got our people over on TikTok. Good morning. What we're going to talk about today is Senator Cory Booker. Some of you may know about this. Many of you probably heard about it. I would have talked about this last week, but it got bumped off of, as I tell you, when it comes to my live streams, sometimes the planned topic gets bumped off the headlines by something else that comes up and takes its place. So this I would have talked about last week. Well, we're going to talk about this one here today. We're going to talk about Senator Cory Booker. Y'all know this guy, Cory Booker, black guy from New Jersey. I believe he's from Newark, New Jersey. I don't know where exactly in Jersey he's from, but he is a senator from Jersey. He's been in politics for not super long. I mean, he's not Joe Biden. He's not Nancy Pelosi. He's not what's the other guy? He's not Bernie Sanders. He hasn't been in politics that long, but he's been in politics for a lot of his adult life because he's not that old. But he gave a speech that broke some records. We're going to talk about all of that and why what Cory Booker did. Or actually, we're going to decide if what Cory Booker did was actually helping anyone. Was it helping Americans, which he claimed was his cause to help Americans? Was he fighting back against Donald Trump, which he claimed was his reason, or he claimed that was the decided outcome? And what a lot of his constituents, or not even constituents, his peers, his supporters, rather, is a better word of saying, his supporters believe that's what he did. So that's what we're going to discuss here today. I will tell you all, those of you who are watching on TikTok, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. That link is in my profile. And make sure you follow me on Instagram. That link is also in my profile, just in case anything happens on TikTok. There have been many shenanigans with TikTok over the last 8 months. I've been suspended off of TikTok 8 times. Yes, 8 different times on TikTok over the last 8 months, simply because I said something that either TikTok's AI system didn't like, but I've learned how to navigate the AI system, so I know what words and names not to say. So if you hear me speaking around a subject here today, it's not because I have any problem saying it. It's simply because if you say it on TikTok, they want to kick you off. And or somehow, some way I got flagged or reported and then I got suspended. So it's happened 8 different times. And TikTok's already warned me that if I get another strike, they're going to delete my account. So all that being said, that's not going to stop me from broadcasting. I just might not be doing it here or at least on this account. So make sure if you're on TikTok, follow me in more than one place. The links are in my profile here on TikTok. So introducing myself, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin, former 9-year pro athlete, author of 41 books, done 4 TEDx talks. My company's called Work on Your Game Incorporated. We help professional entrepreneurs scale their businesses up. Those of you who are at the 6-figure level up to the 7-figure level, you can find out more about that by going to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Or just get on my email list, or just get the copy of my new book, which is out now. It's called The Sales Discipline System. Is that book you can see right there. There's a link to that in my profile as well. Let's get into this topic. Cory Booker, 25 hours and 6 minutes. This, I would say, if let's just remove who said it and remove what they said and what they were aiming to do. Let's just remove all of that. We just remove that. For someone to stand up on the Senate floor and speak for 25 hours and 6 minutes is impressive. Now, what he's talking about, or what this person's talking about, and what they claim they're doing it for, and the actual outcome, those things need to be judged as well. But if we removed all of that and just isolated this point, for someone to give a speech for 25 hours and 6 minutes is impressive. I will say it is impressive. So Cory Booker, or any Cory Booker supporters who are watching this, here's at least one time in this stream that I am going to give you credit, because that is impressive to speak for 25 hours and 6 minutes straight. Now, a senator who has been, the way the rules work is that a senator who's been granted permission to speak may speak indefinitely. This is what the rule is. So this is what he did. You may speak indefinitely so long as you remain standing and you speak more or less continuously. Now, I did not watch Cory Booker's speech, but a lot of people were talking about it, and many of you probably didn't watch the whole thing. It's a long time to sit and watch somebody talk. But I did hear that one of the ways he was able to keep doing this because he had his staff bringing him binders of information. So he had his notes, basically notes there for what to talk about, what topic to pivot to next, et cetera, et cetera. It is impressive that he's able to stand. First of all, just standing up for 25 hours and 6 minutes could be kind of challenging. And you're talking at the same time, and you got to at least sound somewhat coherent during that process. Again, and you got to speak more or less continuously. So it's not like he could take a 5-minute rest while standing up. He had to actually keep talking. Otherwise, he would have had to yield the floor. Now, according to what I read, did some research on what Senator Booker did in order to make the speech happen, is that he didn't drink any water the day before he planned on doing it. So this whole thing was planned. He didn't drink any water the day before so that he wouldn't need to go to the bathroom. Because I guess if he needed to go to the bathroom, then that concludes his speech and he can't get a bathroom break. However long you're up there, you got to stay up there the entire time. So I'm pretty sure he was probably dehydrated from having not drank any water the day before, and that whole 25 hours and 6 minutes, he probably didn't drink too much water because then you're going to need to urinate. You need to go to the bathroom. Also, I read that Senator Booker fasted. If those who don't know what that means, he didn't eat any food for several days leading up to the speech. So he didn't want his digestive system sounding any alarms so that he could go 25 hours and 6 minutes straight to make that happen. Now, again, if we just take away what he was doing and why he claimed he was doing it, I would say that this is generally impressive. You speak for 25 hours and 6 minutes straight. You didn't drink any water the day before, and you fasted for several days just to get ready to do this marathon of a presentation. I would give him credit and say that's an impressive feat. Again, taking away who he is, where he works, what he's allegedly supposed to be doing, who he works for. Let's take all that away. Just take all that off the table. What he did just in isolation is impressive. Okay. Now, what happened is he broke, and that's probably going to be the end of me giving this guy credit. Now, he broke the record. There was a record of 24 hours and 18 minutes of standing on the Senate floor and actually giving a speech. Someone had done this before, and they did it for 24 hours and 18 minutes. And when he broke the record, he was met with a standing ovation from the people who were there watching him, taking social media videos. I heard he live streamed the whole thing. They said on TikTok, he live streamed the whole thing. And overall, his TikTok live stream got like 2.5 million views. Any of you watch this on TikTok? They said he live streamed the whole thing. And again, it got a couple million views all told, added up together, him giving this speech. And again, when he yielded the floor, he was immediately met with this standing ovation. And he claims, this is what Cory Booker claimed, the reason that he did this is because he didn't like the fact that the previous record holder was this guy named Strom Thurmond. I had never heard of Strom Thurmond. Most of you probably never heard of Strom Thurmond. He had previously held the record, and what the history tells us is that Mr. Thurmond was trying to prevent the passing of the Civil Rights Act in 1957, and that's why he held the floor for 24 hours, and it was 24 hours and 18 minutes. That was a previous record, and he was trying to stop the passing of the Civil Rights Act again in 1957, allegedly. And Cory Booker claims the reason he did what he did is because he saw his cause, his mission, to be on equal footing with what Strom Thurmond was trying to do on the opposite side of the aisle, it appears. And he wanted to break that record and make sure that that guy's name was not number one in the history books. All right, sounds great. Now, the stat, again, 350 million. I said 2 million. I greatly underestimated. They say the number of likes this speech got on the TikTok feed of Cory Booker doing it got 350 million likes. This speech that Cory Booker was given. Now, all of this has been looked at as some type of positive action because it is a decision that Cory Booker claims he made. And I heard Cory Booker on a podcast many years ago. I believe this might have been before he was a senator. Maybe it was when he first became a senator. I don't remember what show he was on, but he was being interviewed. It might have been the Combat Jack show. Some of you may remember Combat Jack. He was a person who was in the hip hop industry, and I believe it was on his show. And Cory Booker was talking about how he was working as like a city councilman or a mayor or something like that, relatively new in politics. And there was a situation in his town that he was trying to resolve. And some lady in the street, he was trying to figure out what to do, and he was all flustered. And some lady in the street said, Well, you know what? And Cory Booker was kind of venting to the woman and telling her how he couldn't figure out anything to do. And the woman said, you know what you should do? And he said, what? Because he was eager for someone to give him a suggestion because he couldn't figure anything out. And she said something. And he relayed that story. And it seems as if Mr. Booker's entire career is based on that thought. All right, if I can't figure out what to do and I don't know what's going on and I believe something needs to change, something needs to shift, I should just do something. And that is not necessarily wrong. All right, Cory Booker is not necessarily wrong for thinking that way. I believe that most people, as a general rule, most people suffer way too much from stagnation, procrastination, and not doing enough than they suffer from doing too much, moving too often, and taking too much action. So again, as a general point, this is not a bad idea to just do something. And Cory Booker decided, I'm going to break the record for the longest speech on the Senate floor, and I'm going to talk for 25 hours straight as a way of, quote unquote, doing something. That's not necessarily a bad idea. Okay, I'm laying the foundation here so nobody can say that I just bashed this guy because I haven't really gotten started yet. So this is the foundation that it's not wrong to do something, all right, depending on the circumstance and depending on what you're doing. This decision, I guess what he claims and what Cory Booker's supporters claim is that he did this as a way to protest, quote unquote, protest, and to push back against the current President Donald Trump administration, at least according to, again, his supporters. He's trying to push back against Donald Trump. So he stood on the Senate floor for 25 hours and talked. That's a way of pushing back against Donald Trump. Keep that thought in mind. Now, he's trying to protest Trump, of course, Elon Musk as well. And now my question is, I got a bunch of questions, and y'all can help me answer these. Why is he doing this? That's the first question. Why is he doing this? Why is it? We know the 2024 presidential election was in November, which is, as of today, about a little over 6 months ago. So 6 months ago, it was decided by the American voter that the new leader that we wanted, even if you didn't vote for Donald Trump, you are an American and you knew there's a voting available, whether you voted or not, whether you voted for him or not. We, as a whole, chose Donald Trump to be president. Now, if the country chose Donald Trump to be president in November of 2024, why are people, quote unquote, protesting anything about Donald Trump or anything that he's doing now in the spring of 2025? What exactly is this going to achieve? That's somewhat of a rhetorical question, but it's also an actual question. What is it going to achieve? If you want to protest Donald Trump, who is president, then the way you protest a person who is president is by voting for their opposition so that they can't become president. That's the way you protest. Wait, son, I'm recording.
What's a vote?
You want to vote?
No, I don't.
A vote is when you choose who you want to be your leader. That's what I'm talking about. You understand?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, see you later. So if you want to protest the president, then what you do is you vote against the person who's running. So if you want to protest Trump, you vote for Kamala. You want to protest Obama, then you vote for Romney or McCain. But you don't go protesting them after they already won because he has 4 years in office. Now, there are other things that you can do. What I thought, actually, when I saw all these uprisings, I guess, for lack of a better term, people protesting against the Trump-Musk movements of the first few months of this new administration, I figured maybe these people, and we saw Bernie Sanders and AOC going on, I guess, what were they doing? A book tour? They weren't putting out a book, but they were going on tour doing these speeches and stuff, and they're showing these videos of we got 30,000 people to show up to Denver and whatever it is they're talking about. And I'm like, well, showing up for what? What are they showing up for? What are you getting them all excited to do? What's the action? What's the outcome? And listen, I understand this as a marketer myself, as a business owner and a marketer, marketing being the core business that you're doing when you run a business. I understand getting your audience excited and getting them all engaged and keeping them engaged. The thing is, if you're going to get your audience engaged, you got to engage them to go do something. You have to send them to take an action. This is the reason why. And if this was an election season, let's say this was a presidential election year, let's say in 2028, at this exact same time period, you're going to see whoever the Democratic candidate is or the candidates who are trying to win the primary or trying to get the ticket, and the Republicans, same thing. They're going to be going and doing events. They're going to be giving speeches. They're going to be getting people all riled up and excited. But the point is, there's a reason. I want you to get riled up and excited so that I can win the Democratic or the Republican nomination, and or since we're down to the final two, so I can actually win the presidency. They're trying to get you riled up and excited so you actually go to the poll and you vote. And you vote for me so I can win. That's the reason why you do it. So my question is, what the hell is Bernie Sanders and AOC and Cory Booker and Jasmine Crockett and everyone else, What are they doing now? It's the spring of 2025. The election just happened. What are you getting people all excited to do? I think this is a question that needs to be answered. What are you getting people? What are you getting people excited to do? Again, there's one thing if you want to, I guess, get on social media and say what you say and make your speeches on the floor for 3 minutes, not 25 hours, and say whatever you disagree with the current administration doing. But there are several problems with this. You're getting people all excited for pretty much nothing because you're not sending them to do anything. You have in the marketing world, we call it a CTA. It stands for a call to action. What's the call to action? Any of you who's on my email list, you can get on my email list by going to workonmygame.com. It's free. I send out emails every day. And at the end of every one of my emails, there's a call to action. I always give you a call to action. Even if my email is not necessarily trying to sell you anything, I always give you something to do next. I always give you somewhere to go next. Why? Because I'm not there just telling you something just to tell you. I'm there telling you something because I want to move you to a certain action. And it doesn't mean everybody's going to take the action, but I'm going to make the action available to you. I'm going to give you an opportunity to take an action because that's the reason why I asked for your attention in the first place. You understand? In the marketing world, this is one of the rules of marketing is that if you ask your audience for their attention and then you tell them something, you have to tell them what to do with what you just told them. So I have a book out. I just told you one of my new books is out, and of course, this live is not even about my book. But if I have a book out, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to write an article or make a video or whatever about something that's related to that book. And then at the end of me saying what I'm saying, I'm going to say, okay, go get the book. I'm giving you a call to action. I'm telling you to go do something. I'm not asking you for attention for nothing. You understand? So you don't just tell people stuff and just leave them there. And this is what these politicians are doing. And it becomes a bigger problem because if they were just marketers, so let's say they were entrepreneurs, they're just marketers like me, and they just went out and told people stuff and got people all excited, but then they just didn't give them anything to do. I would let them know, or I would just say, hey, these people don't know what they're doing because you don't do that. You don't get your audience's attention, then just leave them there after you get done saying what you're saying. They're wasting an opportunity. It appears that they are getting people excited. We don't know if these people are the people who showed up to Bernie Sanders rallies. Are they really fans of Bernie Sanders? How many of them were paid to be there? How many of them are plants? We don't know. But we can agree that at least some of those people really wanted to be there and they really are excited about Bernie Sanders. What are you telling them to do? What are they going to do next? In the marketing world, I would say you are violating because you didn't do anything. You didn't give them a call to action. You just missed out on an opportunity to make some money. What are you doing? You run a business. It is your mandate. It is your responsibility to make money. And if you can't make money if you don't offer people an opportunity to give you money. That's the way the business world works. In the political world, their currency, so to speak, is votes. But what are they voting for? There's no election coming up. Bernie Sanders, what are you doing? AOC, what are you doing? Jasmine Crockett, what are you doing? Cory Booker, what are you doing? What are you getting people excited to do? And unfortunately, it appears to me the answer is nothing. And here's why this is a problem. Because if they just wanted to do this, they could do it. If I see some marketer out there doing the same thing and basically putting all this energy out and getting nothing out of it, I say, okay, well, it's their business. If they want to do it, they can do it. They don't know what they're doing, but if they want to mess up, they can mess up. They don't have to take my advice if they don't want to. The problem is these people work for us. We are paying these folks. Every time you receive a paycheck and you see all those deductions coming out of your check, some of that money is going in the pockets of your politicians, whether you voted for them or not. You could be a Republican, MAGA supporter, Trump voter. That money, some of your money is still going into the pockets of the Democrats. So it's not like only Democratic voters pay the Democratic politicians. Now, you know, politicians' money comes from us, right? Their salaries come from us. So it doesn't matter who you voted for or if you voted at all. Every politician is getting paid by you because it's evenly distributed. It's not like Democrats get paid more than the Republicans. They all get paid the same amount. That's your money. So, Senator Cory Booker, even though I'm not from Jersey, didn't vote for you. How is it that you are giving this speech? You took 25 hours of everybody's time and you're supposed to be actually doing some real work to actually help people. What did this do? What did this do to move that cause forward? My conclusion is the answer is nothing. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this. So this speech is looked at as some form of positive action because it's telling people protest and push back against Trump. Again, what are you protesting against? What exactly are you protesting? This doesn't quite make any sense to me. I don't see it making any sense. And maybe some of you can make sense of it when we get to the questions. I'm going to take questions and comments in a moment. But this has to be something tangible that comes with this. Unfortunately, I don't think this is what it is. And what I think Cory Booker's speech did is the same thing that I remember the football player Colin Kaepernick years ago. It was almost 10 years ago now. Doesn't seem like it was that long ago. But Colin Kaepernick, football player, was playing in San Francisco. He started taking a knee during the national anthem. And when people started asking him about it, he said, I'm taking this knee. This is what he said. He said, I'm taking this knee because I want to make sure I start a conversation about police brutality and black and brown bodies at the hands of the cops. And he wanted to start a conversation about those things. Y'all remember that? Colin Kaepernick. Now, here's the thing. And same thing happened with Colin Kaepernick that happened with Cory Booker. I don't know if they started with positive intentions. As a matter of fact, let me say I do believe. I do believe Cory Booker has a positive intention of somehow, some way pushing back against Donald Trump, and this is the best idea he could come up with, to say nothing about that. I do believe that Colin Kaepernick, when he took that knee for the football team back in 2016, I do believe he had a positive intention of, quote unquote, starting a conversation about black and brown bodies and police brutality and oppression and all the talking points that people have about these things. I do believe he had a positive intention of doing that. The problem is, this is something that you'll learn if you come deeper into my world. We are in a performance and results-based business. We are not in an intention-based business. We're not in a feelings-based business. Don't touch that. We're not in a feelings-based business. We are not in a here's what I meant to do based business. We are in a performance and results-based business. What does that mean? That means you are judged by your performance. Son, come close this door. You are judged by your performance, and you are judged by the outcomes of your performance. That is what you are judged by. The outcome of Colin Kaepernick's protests and the outcome of Cory Booker's speech is that everybody's talking about them, not the thing that they allegedly were giving the speech about. What was Cory Booker's speech about? If I didn't mention it a minute ago, could you tell me what his speech was about? Nobody knows. Colin Kaepernick. All of you remember Colin Kaepernick, and regardless of your position on him, all of you know about it, even if you don't watch football. When Colin Kaepernick took that knee, what did the conversation become about? Did all of a sudden, when he took that knee, did everybody say, oh, you know what? Now that this football player took a knee, playing for the San Francisco 49ers, he took a knee during the national anthem, how about we have a conversation about police brutality and oppression and racism and all these bad things happening to black people? Did that happen? That didn't happen. The whole conversation, as soon as he took the knee, became about him. The conversation became, should he take a knee during the national anthem? Is he disrespecting the flag? Is he disrespecting the military? Is it okay? Is the NFL against him? Is he going to get a job again? What's going to happen to him next? Does he actually have a point? Everything that was said based on him taking a knee was all about him. Now, again, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt that I think he had a positive intention, but I may be wrong. We'll never know because you can't read the mind of another person. But what we can judge is the outcome. The outcome was all the conversation was about Colin Kaepernick. It wasn't about police brutality. And by the way, did any of the things that he was allegedly protesting stop, slow down, or become lesser after he took the knee? Did he actually have a positive impact on the thing that he claimed he was trying to change? Did anything change? I don't think so. Nothing changed. I mean, Colin Kaepernick took a knee in 2016. In 2020, 4 years after he, quote unquote, started the conversation, we got Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. Didn't that happen? Do I have my timelines right? So did he achieve anything? According to his alleged intention, he didn't achieve anything. He did nothing. The only thing he achieved was a conversation about himself, which, again, depending on which way you want to look at him, I'm trying to look at him from an optimistic point of view that he was actually trying to create some real change. He failed, but he did create a conversation about himself. And what's he doing now? Where's Colin Kaepernick? And y'all heard from him? I ain't heard from that man. Anyway, Cory Booker. He allegedly, he's trying to generate some momentum against Donald Trump and Elon Musk and the current Trump administration. And again, it goes back to the question that I just asked. Why? Where momentum to do what? What are you going to do? Vote him out? What are you going to do? Are you riling up an audience to vote against him in 2028 when he ain't even going to be running because he already has served his second term? What exactly are we looking to achieve here? And the reason why this matters is because, as opposed to Colin Kaepernick, Colin Kaepernick, we can just trash him and talk about him and say, all right, that didn't work, sir. But he has a right to do what he wants to do because he's a private citizen. He happened to have a public-facing job. He plays football. He decided he wanted to do that. He can do that. People in the government can't just do what they want to do because you work for us. So that means every action that they take can and should be questioned. So this here gives a little bit of credence to what Cory Booker did because he's questioning in his own way what Donald Trump and Elon Musk are doing. The problem is the American people, the same people that he claims to be galvanizing, voted for Donald Trump. Now, I know literally his supporters, many of them probably did not vote for Donald Trump, but majority rules in the democratic election system, the people chose Donald Trump. So you, as a senator opposing Donald Trump, you're free to oppose him, but why did you take 25 hours of our time to do this performance? Again, where is it going? What's going to happen now? Now that he gave that speech, what's going to happen? Now, this speech ended probably what was it, about a week ago? He finished giving the speech. What tangible outcomes have come from the speech? What tangible outcomes came from the speech? I'm seriously asking this question. Somebody put this in the comments. What tangible outcomes have come for Cory Booker, who we pay? He is paid by our tax dollars, pay his salary. And therefore we can ask, what is he doing with his time? Because we're paying him for that time. What has he achieved by doing that? Someone said donations up. I think that's true. The speech record, yeah, he did that. What else? What does he achieve? Someone said, I'm talking about it. Yes, I'm questioning what our elected officials are doing with our money because they're on the clock and we're paying them every minute they're on the clock. So I'm questioning this. And that's why I'm asking, what did he achieve? Someone said people are talking about the problems that he spoke about. So he, quote unquote, started a conversation. Now, here's my question. Was there not people already bashing Trump and Elon before Cory Booker spoke for 25 hours straight? I think so. Now, y'all been watching TV? Y'all got the internet, don't you? All right. Did Cory Booker just all of a sudden start a conversation about people, about what Donald Trump and Elon Musk are doing? I don't think so. They've been bashing Donald Trump and Elon Musk ever since January 19th when he took the oath. He's been getting bashed every day. Donald Trump and Elon. So I don't know. What Donald Trump's been getting bashed since 2016. What did Cory Booker do that wasn't already happening? People saying that he started a conversation about, he got people talking about the things. What did Cory Booker do or say or bring to the table that was not already being done, said, and brought to the table? Name one thing. Can anybody name one thing? Someone said I'm asking a lot of loaded questions. Yes, I am. After I laid the foundation, I gave him credit at the beginning. But I mean, there's only so much credit you can give when someone does something that doesn't seem to have any substance. That's what I'm trying to figure out. What was the substance of what he did? That's the question. That's not a loaded question. What was the substance of what he did? I just said performance and results-based business. What was the result? What is the result? It's been a week. What has he achieved? If you got somebody working for you and they spent 25 hours working on something, would you not ask them, hey, what'd you achieve in that 25 hours of work? Because I'm paying you for every one of those 25 hours. What'd you do? What did you get done? Did you achieve the thing you were supposed to achieve? Yes or no? And if they didn't, then that's a problem. Is it not? And if you got staff working for you, is this acceptable for you? The people who work in the government work for us. And his speech drew attention not to the problems of Donald Trump and the administration, because everybody's already talking about Donald Trump and the administration. I've been talking about him. Positively or negatively, I've been talking about Donald Trump ever since he came back in office. He's a great topic to talk about because it draws a lot of eyeballs and attention. Talking about Donald Trump was exactly what Cory Booker very well understands. The only thing he did was draw attention to himself. That's all he did. Notice I'm talking about him right now. Can you name 3 things he said in that speech that you didn't know about before? And I'm going to respond to all questions and comments at the end. So any of you who's leaving comments while I'm talking right now, after I get through my material, then I take questions. And I'll answer every one that I can see if it has some substance. So can anybody name 3 things he achieved in that speech that got you thinking that you did not know before he said it? Can any of you name 3 things? I'm waiting. This one I'm actually looking in the comments. Anybody got anything? AJ Ward said your material is BS. My material is better than Cory Booker's. Who's better? Whose material better, me or Cory Booker? I say me. Dapper Dan said, tell me you don't understand the point of a filibuster without telling me. Yeah, I know what he was doing. Again, what's the outcome? He wasn't blocking a vote. So what you're saying is technically inaccurate. Cory Booker was not stopping a vote from happening. He was just speaking on the Senate floor. Yes, I know it wasn't a filibuster. That's what I'm saying. So again, people are trying to be sarcastic and don't even have your information correct. So can anybody name 3 things, tangible things that came out of it? AJ said it was a plea, a protest against injustice held by one of our officials. What exactly are you hating? I don't think I'm hating anything. I'm questioning. What injustice? What injustice are you talking about? That's what I'm trying to figure out. What injustice was he bringing up? I don't think he was bringing up many injustices. He was taking the things that he was doing the same thing that the media has been doing for 10 years against Donald Trump. He took things that Trump did. This is what the media's been doing, and the politicians and everybody else jumping on it. Trump does or says a thing. I'll tell you how this works out. All right, and all y'all can tell me if you've seen this before, because all of you've seen it. Trump does or says a thing, regardless of what it is. Let's look at it neutrally. He does or says something. His opponents don't like Donald Trump already, so they take whatever he did or said and they frame it in the most negative possible light. to make it seem like Donald Trump is just committing sacrilege against everybody. So they frame it to make it seem terrible. Then the mainstream media picks up on it and they broadcast it to the entire world. And then everybody gets all reactive. Then a bunch of people who don't like him say, oh my God, I can't believe Donald Trump doing this terrible thing. And then the people who defend him or looking at the situation objectively, they come out and they say what they got to say about it. And then everybody's talking about it. And the media benefits from this because if it bleeds, it leads. We all go click and watch and talk about it. And the people who are bashing him, Donald Trump's enemies in politics, they get to build their own resumes by bashing Donald Trump. And then it goes away. And then 24 hours later, a new one pops up. And then 24 hours later, there's a new one. It's like playing whack-a-mole. All right, that's all it is. Donald Trump did this. Boom. Donald Trump did that. Boom. Donald Trump said this. Boom. Somebody made up something about Donald Trump. Boom. And then it just goes every single day for the news cycle. That's the reason why we have a 24-hour news cycle. All they do is, as Drake said in one of his songs, if they don't have a story, they'll make one. This is what they do. Cory Booker had no story, so he made one. He made himself the story. He succeeded in doing that. This might be the most significant thing he's done since he's been in the Senate. Can anybody name anything else Cory Booker has accomplished since being in the Senate? I'll wait. Can anybody name anything he has achieved since being in the Senate? Besides this, I think this is the biggest. If you had to list his resume, usually on a resume, you put your most impressive point first. I think this might be the most impressive point on his resume. Other than actually being in the Senate, this might be the most impressive thing. In 2025, he gave a 25-hour speech that broke the record for the longest time holding the Senate floor. I think. Can anybody name something else? 25 hours and not 1 minute went viral. Well, the whole thing went viral. I mean, the general idea of what he did went viral. So we got it. Again, I give him credit for that. I mean, 25 hours straight talking, standing up, no water, no food. That is impressive. No bathroom breaks. That is impressive. The fact that he did it. Now, then what I'm asking about is the context of why he did it, when he did it, where he did it, who's paying him while he's doing it. Those are the things that I'm questioning because I'm a tax-paying citizen. So I want to know where my money is going. This dude just took 25 hours to do something. I want to know what he did. What did you accomplish here, Senator Booker? Now, Cory Booker, I believe it says a lot about his political career that none of you can name a single thing he's accomplished other than what he did here in the speech. Can any of you name anything that he's about? Like what's the word I'm looking for here? What principles or values Cory Booker stands on? Any of you who's maybe from New Jersey, maybe you know a little bit more about his career. Maybe you've been following him more. Maybe you follow Senate politics more than I do. Any of you name like what are his principles? What he's about? Any of you know? And by the way, if you're watching me on TikTok, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Instagram. The links are in my profile. The replays of all these live streams are on my YouTube. I got more than one YouTube. Just look it up. So can anybody name anything that he has brought to the table, anything he's done? The last time I heard Cory Booker was when Ketanji Brown Jackson was she was going through the confirmation to join the Supreme Court. And that was who was the woman that asked her? I believe it was one of the senators. Who was the senator that asked Ketanji Brown Jackson, can you tell us what is a woman? And Ketanji Brown Jackson acted like she was flummoxed by the question. She didn't, I can't give you a definition. What'd she say? I'm not a scientist. I'm not, some ridiculousness that she said. Who was that asked that question? When she said, what is a woman? Someone said, first step in American Rescue Plan, single payer healthcare. Okay, got it. All right, got it. Those people who gave that answer. Now, do the majority of Americans recognize Cory Booker for that, or do they recognize him for what just happened? That's what I'm asking. The majority of Americans, because Cory Booker's salary is not paid by the one or two of you that gave me an answer that you just went and Googled. Maybe you already knew that. I'll give you credit. What about the majority of Americans who are paying his salary? Because just your tax dollars enough ain't enough. That's what I'm asking. Someone said, so does anybody know? And my question was, the person who asked Ketanji Brown Jackson, what is a woman? Whoever that was. And Ketanji Brown didn't answer the question. Then she got grilled all day. She did get grilled. And this is what happens when you do these confirmations and people get grilled. You get grilled by the other side. And if y'all think that was a bipartisan, or you think that was just a partisan thing the Republicans do to Democratic appointees, no, because she was appointed by Joe Biden, who just said black women for everything, his press secretary, his vice president, and Ketanji Brown Jackson. If y'all should go look up what happened to Brett Kavanaugh when he was trying to get confirmed to the Supreme Court. Or look up what happened to Clarence Thomas when he was joining back in the 90s. And look what happened to everybody who joined Trump's administration this time around. So it happens to all of them. They all do the same thing to each other. And at the end of that day, Cory Booker, not the end of the day, but he was one of the later people to speak. And he was on the committee. And he started basically, what's the word I would say? He basically started giving Ketanji Brown Jackson a verbal shoulder rub, and she started crying. Y'all remember this? That's the only time I remember Cory Booker Senate-wise doing anything. That and this. Those are two things I remember. Highlights. That's the two things I remember. Someone said, I saw this comment. He said, imagine being against your own people. Who are my people? My people are the Americans who are working for us, which is everybody in the government. My people are all those people in the government and all the citizens in America. Those are all my people. Now, we'll get into that conversation when I get into the comments. That'll be fun. But anyway, Cory Booker, just his background. He was a mayor from 2006 to 2013 in Newark, New Jersey. And then he joined the Senate after that. And so it's been about 12 years he's been in the Senate. That's not that long of a time. So he was mayor of Newark, New Jersey for 7 years. I think that might encompass 2 terms. Maybe it's only 1. I don't know. He's been in the Senate ever since. I already asked what he's accomplished. Most of you don't have an answer. What was the tangible achievement? I already asked that. Most of you have no answer. Aside from drawing attention to himself and this performative celebration he got from his supporters, what did this do to help American citizens? That's the question that no one has yet to answer. How did this help us? Let's say you're a Cory Booker fan. How did this help us? He started a conversation. Okay, you can start a conversation on TikTok right now. How is that helping anybody? Starting a conversation is not an accomplishment. Not in my book. Talking is not an accomplishment. Words are a dime a dozen. Right? So starting a conversation is not an accomplishment. Now, if there's a measurable outcome that comes from what you're doing, then that's a different thing. What's the measurable outcome from what Cory Booker did? I've asked this question about 20 times. I haven't seen a substantial answer, but I'm not looking directly at the comments. So let's get into that right now. Let's find out. Let's get to the comments. Don't think I'm gonna need a bathroom break. I'm doing my Cory Booker right now. I think I won't need a bathroom break. And let's see if we can get through this whole thing with no bathroom breaks. Let me see if we got anything on Instagram. Okay, TikTok, we up. Let's see what you got. I'm gonna scroll up to the top. So I'm starting the comment read from the top up here, not from where you all are at right now. So if I appear to not be seeing your comments because I'm starting at the top, so I'll get to it when I get to it. I got to scroll through. Angel Lowe said, our government had been failing us for years. Well, generally, I agree with that. Jay Darren said he could be trying to boost his reputation, social and political capital, maybe. Yes, he wasn't trying. He did. That is what he accomplished. Again, he helped himself, which is the point. What you just said, he helped himself. He didn't help us. He helped himself by doing what he did in that speech. Rose said, so he's posing a juxtaposition to the politicians that are trying. It's Lee. What is he trying? You said politicians that are trying. Trying what? That's what I'm trying to figure out. What was he trying? Q said, what's the point of why you against him? I'm not against him. I'm not against Cory Booker, the person. I'm against his actions. And I'm questioning his actions more than anything, but some people consider questioning to be against you. If you want to frame it that way, completely fine. What did he accomplish? I'm asking the question. I'm the person who pays his salary. I want to know what he accomplished. And no one can answer the question. AJ said it was a plea, a protest against injustice held by one of our officials. What exactly are you hating? I actually read that question when it happened. What am I hating? When did, AJ, I don't know if you're a male or a female, but when did this become this thing conversationally, and when someone questions something, people immediately frame it as hating? I'm not hating anything. I'm questioning. Jay Darren said, I can't recall anything besides him reading letters. Oh, yeah, I did see that he read some letters. I saw some clips of that. Tommy said, I said, yours is better than Booker. Way Booker. Booker is a low bar. All right, well, I'll still take that as a compliment. Most politicians are a low bar. If you took them out of politics, they don't really have any value to add to society. Most politicians have no value to add to society outside of being in politics. That's why they work there their whole lives. Marky said he paid his staff overtime. Yeah, shout out to his staff. They had to stay up 25 hours too, maybe some of them. AJ said it's hate because you are intentionally missing the point. It's annoying and very flagrant. Well, AJ, it's probably not that annoying, because if it was really annoying, you wouldn't even be here. You would just leave and go watch something that is more pleasing to your ears. You're still here, so you don't believe it's hate. And secondly, if someone is missing a point, I'm not intentionally missing anything, but let's just say I was missing the point, even intentionally. How does that become hate? That's a false binary. Let's say you make a point and I don't quite agree with your point, or I'm not quite seeing your point, or maybe you're just not that good at articulating your point and I'm not catching it. Does that mean the only other option is I'm hating you or hating what you're doing? That's false. And AJ, looking at your profile picture, I don't know if that's actually you. You appear to be a male. This is a feminine energy frame. that you call something hate just because it goes against the way you see things. Even if I logically and really do not see things the way you see them, we can't call it hate. The same way if the roles were reversed. Just because I don't see things the way you see them doesn't mean I'm hating. And this is how women talk, is they go straight to the emotion when they don't get a logical connection. And again, I expect it from a female. I do not appreciate it coming from a male. Go V1KU said Republican grifter. Who are you talking about? Me? I'm grifting? What's my grift? Please tell me, because I'm grifting, that means there has to be some money being made by what I'm doing. So please tell me how I'm making money doing this and where's the money at? Please tell me where the money got sent. Please tell me. And I'll go get it, wherever it is. Lauren Cornelia said, you're sure right. Thank you. Mario Bat said, let's stop giving him views so he can rant to himself. Okay, Mario, I don't think that worked. You tried, but you failed. G. Williams said, Democratic voters have been so brainwashed that they settle for performance over substance. I will say that with some Democratic politicians, I'm not even going to speak to the voters. I'll say with Democratic politicians, some of them are performative. And G. Williams, we gotta give credit where credit is due. Looking at things objectively, is that performative behavior by Democratic politicians riles up and excites Democratic voters. So if you're in the game of politics, this is kind of the game you have to play. It's kind of what you have to do. You got to do it. So if I was Cory Booker, I understand why he did what he did, because what he did was build up his own brand and reputation, which means the next time he's up for re-election, he's probably a shoo-in to win re-election. So he helped himself. The challenge I have is that what is this doing for the voters, because he works for us. Now, again, he was running his own business and he did this, I wouldn't be talking about it, because I say, okay, that's what he wanted to do. It worked for him. Do your thing. But he works for us. So that's why he can be openly questioned, because he's a publicly elected official, which means he's getting paid by us, by the money that's coming out of your paycheck. So that's why I want to know what the hell he's doing. So it's not wrong for him to give performance, because performance is what works in his line of work. In his line of work, you must perform. And let's be clear, Republican politicians have to do the same thing. They're not, I believe Democratic politicians are better at performance art than the Republicans are. It's one of the reasons why Democrats win. When they win is because they're better at the performance than the Republicans are. Like, look at Cory Booker, what he did. Look at Jasmine Crockett. Look at even Kamala Harris. Name a Republican politician who has done anything like what you see and hear these people doing. I don't think I can name one. The only person who would even be in the ballpark is Donald Trump. And he's better than all three of them put together, which is the reason why he's been in the position running the Republican Party for 3 straight election cycles. And that's why the Republican Party needs to fill that gap. It's a very big gap they got to fill once he leaves in 2028. But as far as the performative stuff, they're very good at it. Barack Obama was a performer. Hillary Clinton was not a good performer, which is why she didn't win. Joe Biden was not a good performer, but with the circumstances of the 2020 election, we'll never know what happened in 2020. That's what I will continue to say. With Joe Biden, he was not a good performer. Kamala Harris is a better performer than Joe Biden, but I mean, how good do you have to be better than a person who is, I don't know, what word would you use to describe Joe Biden's state? To be better than that, you don't have to be that good. So I get what you're saying, G. Williams, but at the same time, that's part of the game. It is part of the game as a politician. That's the reason why, another reason why, because any of you, sometimes people say to me, Joe, you should get in politics. There's another reason why I would never get in politics, because you have to do this performative stuff that doesn't really have any substance, and you're generally misleading and fooling your audience just to draw attention to yourself, which helps you win your next election. And there's a lot of empty calories. I'm not a fan of empty calorie efforts. I understand them and I can respect the hustle, but it's not something I would ever want to do myself. That's what I'll say about the empty calorie stuff. I don't like empty calorie efforts. I'm just not a fan. So Floyd says Trump doing everything Hoover did that caused the depression. Well, we'll see. Even if he did, we're in a completely different world now than the world that we were in when Hoover did whatever he did. I'm just going off your comment. And we'll see if we end up in the same place. I strongly doubt it. Jamie sent the rose. The first gift you ever sent. Thank you, Jamie, for sending the rose. Anna said, what have I done? Well, are you seriously asking? What have I done in what realm? Name a space. I don't work in the public. I'm not a public official. I'm not an elected government politician. So in terms of politics, I've done absolutely nothing. But in terms of politics, what I do is pay taxes, which means any politician who's working in the government, if I want to question them, I have every right to, because their paycheck is coming out of my check. Nico said, "Who are you?" Again, are you seriously asking? Read my bio or Google me. T. Buta said, "What has Trump accomplished?" I don't know if you're talking about Trump or you're calling me a chump. Either way. Vivian said, "All he did was bring attention to himself, kind of advertising for re-election." Yes, which I get. I respect that hustle, but when is he up for re-election? Aren't the elections in the even years? It's 2025. What's he doing? I mean, he already solidified his spot. I think he's a shoe-in to win his next. I doubt he's even going to be challenged. GT Jenkins said, "Making the right side know that they're on the right side." No, that's not an accomplishment. Everybody thinks they're on the right side, GT Jenkins. Let me ask you a question. The people with this whole right side of history thing, this a nonsense phrase. Everybody on one side of a conversation thinks they're on the right side of history. For example, the virus a few years ago, there's some people who took the jab and some people who didn't. People who took the jab said, well, we're on the right side of history because we took the jab. The people who didn't take the jab, guess what they think? They're on the right side of history. So what's the right side of history? The right side of history is going to be whoever writes the history books, which is usually the people who survive and live, and which is yet to be seen. So the right side doesn't really mean anything. Everybody thinks they're on the right side. That's a what we call appeal to morality fallacy. Is when you just claim that you are of stronger morals than the other side, and that gives you solace to think that what you did was the right thing, which is nonsense. BS Boto said, motivating people is an essential tool of leadership. Okay, generally I'll agree with that point, but when you motivate people, BS Boto, just to give you some game on leadership, you're motivating them to actually do something. Okay, my latest book is on sales, and I wrote it based on a presentation I gave to a sales organization. They brought me in to quote unquote motivate their team to do what? Go fucking sell something. What is Cory Booker motivating you to do? That's the question I've been asking this entire live. Nobody's yet to answer it. Ray Heck said, at least people are becoming more engaged in politics. It used to be mostly for old folks. Well, people are more engaged in politics because of the internet. Now we can cut things up. Y'all ever watch one of these confirmation hearings? Shit takes 2 to 4 hours. So who's going to sit there and watch 2 to 4 hours on fucking C-SPAN and these hearings? Because they're generally boring. Being in government, this is another thing. I did a live several months ago where I told you why I would never work in politics. One of the reasons I would never work in politics is it's fucking boring. It's a whole lot of paperwork. It's a whole lot of procedural nonsense. Everybody has to have a chance to speak. Most people are reading off pieces of paper. If you watch any of these hearings, notice that they're reading off pieces of paper. You know what makes the president interesting most of the time? Obama, Trump as well. Joe Biden, not so much. But you know what makes them interesting is that it seems like they're just saying what's on their mind. Donald Trump is really telling you what's on his mind. Barack Obama was just a very good speaker. So he would have a prepared speech, but he would make it seem like he was just talking off the cuff when he really wasn't. But it's interesting to listen to them talk. If you listen to any of these confirmation hearings, you listen to senators and Congress people talk, a lot of times they're reading off a piece of paper and they're not very good speakers and it's boring as hell. And if you work there, you got to sit there and listen to that shit. You can't leave. So I would never get involved in this. So the reason why we are paying more attention to politics now for the person who left that comment is because now you can take a 3-hour hearing, cut out 2 minutes of it and put it on TikTok. And the average person who is lazy, doesn't think and doesn't read will never watch 3 hours, but they will watch 2 minutes. So that's the reason why we seem to be more, somewhat engaged in politics. But most people are still just as ignorant as they always were because they don't actually have any information. You just got clips. A 2-minute clip out of a 3-minute situation is not being informed. For any of you who thought that it is, it's not. So let me see where we're at. Pro said his filibuster was an act of resistance. Mind you, he didn't receive any additional compensation. It was not a filibuster, number one. Number two, it was an act of resistance. I guess he claimed it was, but it was performative resistance. It's not real resistance. Real resistance is you're putting yourself up against something that could do something to you. That's what a resistance is. Resistance is like if I get in a UFC ring, a cage, and you're in the cage and we're battling each other, I'm pushing you, you're pushing me back. That's resistance. Because if I stop pushing, you're going to knock me down. If he didn't do it, what was going to happen to him? Nothing. So he didn't really resist anything. Resistance means you're fighting against something that's fighting you. What is he fighting? What was fighting him? The answer is nothing. So that's performative resistance, which, again, appeases some people, but he didn't do anything. And Pro said he didn't receive any additional compensation. Yeah, we know that. We know that. He received compensation for what he did, which was still nonsense. He shouldn't have got his regular pay for that. That's what I'm saying. Easy Am said, you're focused on the wrong things, my brother. Well, Easy Am, tell me what I need to be focused on since you have some insight. And please don't miss me with the brother talk. If you disagree with me, just tell me what you got. So the passive aggressive disagreeing, I want you to just tell me what you disagree with. I say that to everybody. I got to say that like every day. people come with these passive aggressive comments. If you disagree with what I'm saying, tell me what your disagreement is. Don't seed your disagreement. Just say it. I like direct communication. Peace and Love said, why you just focus on him? Well, that's the topic of the fucking live stream. What do you want me to focus on? I've been doing these lives every day, Monday through Friday, for the last 8 months. If you want me to focus on something else, please check my archives. Check my receipts. Nita Lynn said, if anyone doesn't like this content, there are plenty of other lives and creators. Well, Nita, they all know that. They don't really dislike it. That's the reason why they left the comment, because they want me to read it out loud. They don't really dislike what I'm saying. If you really disliked it, you just click away and you wouldn't say anything. Watch Me said, Trump and conservatives have done nothing to help Americans, only hurt. I would challenge that. One thing that you can say, even if Watch Me Be Trash, I'm assuming that you are not a conservative. Doesn't sound like it. One thing that even if you are a liberal, you can appreciate the conservatives for, and even if you're a conservative, you can appreciate the liberals for, is the following, is that each opposing side keeps the other side somewhat honest. Because if there were only liberals and there was no opposition to the liberals, they would have complete power and complete control. And absolute power corrupts absolutely. You don't want your favorite political side. All of you in here, if you have a political horse, you like the Republicans, you like the Democrats, you're conservative, you're liberal, you would never vote for the other side. I want you to understand, you don't want your side to have absolute unchecked power. Because when that happens, what we get is a dictatorship. That's no longer a democracy. So if you don't like what's going on in the R country or the C country, do you know how things work over there in those places? You say the wrong thing about the person in charge or the people in charge, they will come get you, throw you in jail, and there is no due process. That's what happens when there is no system of checks and balances and there's no competing power pushing against the power that you like. So if there was only Democrats, there would be complete anarchy, not anarchy, excuse me. There's just complete dictatorship. You can only do what they say. And there was only Republicans, it'd be the same thing. So even if you like one side, you don't want the other side to go away because the other side keeps your side honest because they know if they do some nonsense, they're going to get called out for it. In this case, this is where you can give Cory Booker some credit because he is calling himself, calling out, quote unquote, Donald Trump. I think they're sensationalizing. I know. Everything Donald Trump does or says, they sensationalize to make it seem terrible. And then they claim to be fighting against it. It's all performative. But at least the people on the Trump side know that everything they do, this is going to happen. That keeps them sharp. So even if you like Trump, if you like MAGA, you should be happy that the Cory Bookers of the world exists. Why? Because everything Trump and MAGA does, people like Cory Booker and his peers, they're going to come out and try to make you look terrible. And if you know you have an enemy trying to make you look bad every day, it keeps you focused and it keeps you mentally sharp. If there was no enemy, you get weak. And any of you read The Art of War by Sun Tzu, you understand this. When an army doesn't have anyone to fight, the swords get dull. You need to fight. You need to fight to keep the army sharp. And it's the same thing when it comes to mindset. So Gove1KU said, tell me what the American Rescue Plan is without looking it up. That was not brought up here today and is not the subject. So nice try, but try again. Bonnie said, you don't look like them people. That's a logical fallacy in and of itself. Let me pull up that fallacy because that's a fallacy that every once in a while when I'm doing these live streams, somebody does something like what this person did. They said, tell me what the American Rescue Plan is without looking it up. When I never mentioned the American Rescue Plan. So let me ask ChatGPT. So you got to give ChatGPT the right prompts. What is the name of the fallacy when someone asks you to define or explain something that you're not even talking about as a way of getting a gotcha moment on you or discrediting or undermining what you are actually talking about? So you got to ask ChatGPT the right question. So the answer is, this is called the Mott and Bailey fallacy. Y'all see this right here? The Mott and Bailey fallacy. So what? Gove1KU, congratulations. I think you're the first person to have the Mott and Bailey fallacy pointed out on one of my live streams. It depends on how it's used. It can also be a straw man argument or even a form of bait and switch or whataboutism. But Mott and Bailey, I haven't used this one before, so let's see. The Mott and Bailey fallacy is when someone shifts the argument from a strong controversial claim to a much safer or easier to defend position when challenged, then acts like you attacked the weaker claim. So this is a tricky type of fallacy. So if someone says, if I say we need to rethink government spending and you say, oh, so you don't care about poor people, now you're forced to defend a position you never stated. Okay, so I've seen people do that before. I often call that the straw man, but ChatGPT says this is called the Mott and Bailey fallacy. I never heard it labeled that way. Straw man, I'm very familiar with. Straw man is when someone misrepresents your point to be something that you didn't actually say. That one I've seen plenty of times. And it's kind of the same thing. And then it's the gotcha frame or the Socratic trap. That's what this actually is. I like this one better. So the gotcha framing or Socratic trap. I'm going to use Socratic trap. I like that term. Sounds good. So thank you, Carla. And not a normal fallacy name, but often used in debates. This is when someone asks a loaded question or an off-topic question just to trap you, and is more about discrediting you than it is debating you. So that's what Gove1KU, congratulations. You're the first person to use I like this term, the Socratic trap. I got to start using that because people do this all the time. Often in my live streams, I get this Socratic trap. So I make a point about mindset and business, and they say, well, define capitalism. All right, what the hell does that have to do with what I'm talking about? So again, this is what even ChatGPT tells me what you can say to people when they say it. So let me read what they say. ChatGPT claims, here's what I can say back when someone does this. Notice how when people can't refute your point, they try to change the subject or ask irrelevant gotcha questions. That's not debate, that's distraction. That's actually pretty good. I think I worded it better than ChatGPT, but that's close enough. All right, so let's continue. Where were we? Ken Isenbacher said, men have emotions and put a red flag. K Isenbacher. No, all people have emotions. Men need to control their emotions. There's nothing wrong with having them. Just got to learn how to control them. Kuto, good morning to you. Good to see you here. AJ Ward said emotions are feminine. No. Again, straw man question. Be careful when you start a response to someone else's statement with the word so, because it means you're about to reframe what they said into something that they didn't say, known as a straw man fallacy. I did not say emotions are feminine. I said when you disagree with something, that a logical point with an emotional frame, that's feminine. That's what I call feminine energy. And again, I appreciate feminine energy in a woman. I do not appreciate feminine energy from a man. You appear to be a man. I don't know if you're a man or not, but based on your response here, I'm assuming that you are. Ask your dad and tell me what he says. Connie says, praying for you to keep speaking truth and asking hard questions. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Highway said Obama passed the ACA, Affordable Care, because he gave a moving speech at the 2000 DNC. We will see. Well, Obama giving moving speeches is one of the reasons why he's Obama, because he's a very, very good speaker. One of the best we've seen this century. Probably the best we've seen this century. Trump is up there, but in a different way for different reasons. Easy Ann said, focusing on Booker solves what? What substance are you bringing to this conversation? So again, this is another feminine frame right here. Another way that you see the feminine frames coming from males is when they say things like, women do this as well, but I point it out when I see men doing it. I'm not bothered when a woman does it because, again, I have a certain expectation when a woman speaks to me versus when a man speaks to me. So focusing on, why are you focused on? Why are you worried about? Why are you concerned about? Whenever someone frames something, when you're talking about a certain subject and someone frames their criticism of you by using these words, or why are you focused on that? Why are you worried about that? Why are you concerned about that? Mofo, because this is the topic that I decided to talk about. This is my live stream. I can talk about whatever I want. So if I decide to talk about LeBron James, am I worried about him? Am I focused on him? That's the topic. So tomorrow, if I talk about what you want me to talk about, is it okay then? Because is what you want me to talk about is whatever subject I want to talk about is what I talk about. So his question is, Easy Am says, focusing on Booker solves what? What substance are you bringing to this conversation? Well, obviously, Easy Am, I'm bringing enough substance that you're still around leaving comments, even though you claim to be disagreeing with me. That's enough substance right there. You give me your most valuable resource, which is your time and attention. So if I wasn't bringing any substance, why are you still here? Answer that question. And if you could do it better than me, you do it. You start your own live stream and outdo me. Now, I've been doing these since, again, 5 days a week since about 8 months ago. If you can outdo me, do it better than me. And if you want to know what I bring to any conversation on any subject, please tune into my other work. I have a podcast that comes out every day. It's called Work on Your Game. It's been running since 2016. So 9 years. It's been listened to close to 8 million times total. Probably more than that if we count everything up. But let's just say 8 million on audio. Govu said, you're showing your book and not addressing the points that I brought up. I'm not showing my book. I got 41 books. So which book am I showing? And not addressing the points that you brought up. Do you see how many comments are coming in here? Govu, I just gave you a whole lot of attention by pointing out your Socratic trap fallacy. And the points that you brought up, maybe I will get to them, maybe I won't. But there are too many comments for me to get to every single comment that comes through. Sometimes they skip because there's so many coming through. Steven Sessom says, I bet you got a lot on your mind. Well, okay, fair enough. Andrew said it was Hakeem Jeffries, not Cory Booker. Them don't even know his name. It was Hakeem Jeffries who did what? Who are you talking about? When you say it was Hakeem Jeffries, what did he do? Kudo said he's making a whole 50 cents per live. Yeah, probably something like that. I mean, if I was grifting, again, I'd be doing a whole lot of different things on my time right now if I really wanted to grift. Zelia said, Buddy grifting his own money away and thinking that means he isn't a grifter. Zelius, I'm not quite sure what that means. Wait, let me say it again. Read that again. He says, Buddy is grifting his own money away and thinking that means he isn't a grifter. What the hell does that even mean? That's not grammatically correct. Doesn't seem to make sense to me, but maybe I'm missing something. And also, I've said this before. I got to say it again. I'm going to have to keep saying this. Stop calling people grifters when you disagree with them. The term has been overused and now it doesn't mean anything anymore. Whenever someone hears something that they don't like and it appears that the person who spoke is somehow, some way doing some type of business, you call them a grifter. Oh, you're a grifter because we disagree. So if I go and have the exact opposite opinion, if I was in here saying Cory Booker's speech was amazing and here's all the great things he did by giving the speech, the same people calling me grifters would be happy. But what's the difference? I'm doing the exact same thing. I just have a different opinion. So just because my opinion differs from yours, now all of a sudden I'm a grifter. But if you agreed with me, I wouldn't be a grifter, huh? So what's the difference? Trey Everett said Booker wasn't resisting anything specific. It wasn't a filibuster. It was simply disruptive. I don't know if it was disruptive. What did he really disrupt? That's the issue. Again, what did he disrupt? I think what he did was draw a bunch of attention to himself. He succeeded in doing that. And I do believe that's what was one of his intentions, not his stated intention. But I think he wanted to, let me just make sure I put my name in the hat and make sure more people are talking about me. He achieved that. Now, again, what is that doing for us? Because he works for us. That's what I'm questioning. Carmine said, yeah, you're right. Doing nothing is way better. I see the sarcasm there. All right, let's see. Sandwich and chips, thanks for the follow. Michelle Henry, good to see you. Josh Wallace said, why can't you stand up to Trump the same way Booker did? How did he stand up to Trump? Talking on social media or making a speech is not standing up to Trump. Standing up to Trump is running against him in an election and beating him. Only person who's done that, according to official records, is Joe Biden. Hillary Clinton tried, she failed. Kamala Harris tried, she failed. And all the Republicans who went against Trump tried and they failed. So no one's actually stood up to him except the people. You're going to stand up to somebody, you got to face them in direct competition and beat them. Or even if you lose. Okay, so we can say Hillary stood up, she just lost. Kamala stood up, she lost. Biden stood up, he won. That's all we can say. But giving a speech about a person and attacking them after they already won the election that you were campaigning against them for, how are you standing up to them? Cory Booker's been a Democrat his whole life, right? The whole time we've known him. Did he not campaign for Kamala Harris against Donald Trump? So how is he standing up to Trump now? All right, he tried to stand up to Trump by supporting Kamala. Kamala lost. So how is he all of a sudden now he's standing up to Trump after the election? It's kind of like after the fight, now you want to fight. Right? So you get in the ring, you lose a boxing match, then you want to fight in the post-match press conference. Wait, we just had a chance to fight in the ring. You ain't do it. You ain't do it. Now you're standing up to Trump. So Josh, I reject your framing. Kate says, Senator Kennedy, he's hilarious. AJ said he's running the party because they're easily manipulated. Yes, that's what everyone says about the party that they don't like. That everybody in that party is easily manipulated and they're not that smart, and et cetera, et cetera. We've heard that one before. We need something better than that. Pete Ness says Booker, anti-Second Amendment, allowed his little security guard to illegally have a weapon. Wonder why? I don't know. Why? Why do you think? Kay Isenbacher said they actually care about people. Republicans protect corporations. That's it. Well, clearly they've gotten the party line across to you. And Isenbacher is not even a diss to you, but people have believed that about the Democrats and the Republicans going back 60 plus years, that the Republicans are about corporations and rich people, and the Democrats are about the everyday person and the little man. The problem with that framing is how the hell did Donald Trump get all the quote unquote little men to vote for him, being that he's already publicly noted as a billionaire, has been rich and famous for 40 years, and he's a Republican. How the hell did he get all these everyday people to vote for him if this framing that you have repeated here is true? This framing is falling apart because the Democrats are the party of the little man. Why are none of the little men voting for the Democrats? They all voted for Trump. Zelia said, name a Republican doing what the good politicians are doing. Did I say that? Richard White said, Booker is just another sellout. Look at his district after all his years of servicing nothing. Well, we could say that about a lot of politicians. Is Booker a sellout? Here's the thing I would say to that, Richard, is that I was talking to someone on X the other day about this, not about politicians, but on media stuff, is that people tend to call other people a sellout when they have some type of job or they're getting paid by some entity and you disagree with them. The problem is you could kind of put that on everybody. You call every Republican politician a sellout too. They're selling out to get their job, and the Democrats are selling out to get their job. And someone who works at Fox is a sellout. Someone who works at CNN is a sellout. Anybody with a job, you call them a sellout because they are selling their time and presence in exchange for a check. And there's certain things you got to do when you have a job. So it's not that Booker is not a sellout, but it's hard to kind of call somebody a sellout these days because everybody uses that term, or now grifter is the new one, is that everyone uses that term when they disagree with someone and that person happens to be making money doing what they're doing. So it's a challenging term simply because it's been overused. Not to say that you're necessarily wrong. Well, heck said, at least people are becoming more engaged. I responded to that one. Thank you for the roses and the gifts, everybody who's been sending them. Amber and Beyond, good to see you. Sandwich said, is virtue signaling only performative? Yes, it was very performative. And it was very virtue signal-ish. I will agree with that. And again, what did he actually accomplish? I don't see anything. Traditional, good to see you. Thank you for the rose. Amber, thank you for the roses. Moderators, y'all see any good comments? Just pin them. Because I got too many. I'm probably not going to get through everything here today. Tevin Norris, thank you for the follow. Carmen said, definitely the internet, not just people disappearing along with their rights. What do you mean by that, Carmen? You talking about the borders are getting people out of here? Traditional all die said, Aladai said, Trump, it is boring. Trump is a free-willed speaker. Yes, Trump kind of just says what he's thinking. Trump doesn't seem to have prepared speeches. His speeches don't seem to be very prepared. Most politicians, their speaking is prepared, or you can literally see them reading off the paper. Cory Booker as well. They just read off the paper. If all you're going to do is read off the paper, why are you speaking? It's like I go to conferences when I speak. I was giving a speech yesterday, not a speech, but a presentation on Zoom yesterday. And before I did it, the people, I was speaking to somebody's mastermind group, and they said, can you send us this? They sent my assistant, can you send a slide deck, before the presentation? And I told my assistant to tell what we tell everybody when they ask me that. Everywhere I speak, they always ask me, do you have a slide deck, or can you send a slide deck before the presentation? I don't use slides. Just like wouldn't use slides here either. I tell them I don't have any slides. And I told them before the presentation yesterday, I said, I don't have any slides. So y'all don't have to worry about reading the screen. And it's funny because I go see people give speeches and they have slides and they're just reading off the slide. And I'm like, well, what the fuck you standing on the stage for if you're just going to read off the slides? We can just give us the slides. We don't even have to listen to you talk. All you're going to do is read. I know how to read. What do I need you for? So me, I just like to present. I don't use slides at all when I give speeches. I will stand and I tell the audience before that. And every time I do it, people in the audience kind of get happy and they smile and they laugh because they're so used to every other speaker using slides and they're taking pictures of the slides. And I'm like, listen, ain't no pictures. You don't take pictures, take pictures of me. Ain't no slides. But a lot of politicians, they're not good public speakers. This is the reason why many of them don't advance. You got to be a good public speaker to advance in politics. Left-leaning independent said, we'd rather have boring, accurate information than entertaining lies. Well, generally, I agree with that. I agree with the frame here, left-leaning independent. The problem is, how do you know that the information being given to you is accurate? How do you know what's a lie? Kat says, Trump doesn't even know what he's saying. I would disagree with that. Fielding said, just put the fries in the bag, bro. Nuts said, where's your hair? It got washed down the drain this morning when I shaved. Stat said, brother, why is there so much hate at you in these comments? LOL. Well, it's the internet. What do you expect? This is what happens on the internet. When you have an opinion that people disagree with, people will come at you. I wouldn't even call it hate. It's just people disagree. That's what I would call it. I would just call it disagreement. I wouldn't call it hate. AJ Ward said, American companies that are true. I lost my spot. Where was I? That are true Americans cost more than foreign imports. Yes, they do. That's very true. That's very true. That's the trade-off of buying American and manufacturing Americans, that it costs more money. And that's the temporary pain that Trump was talking about. Pete Dragon said, you were not born with hate. Who trained you? You believe I have hate? Who am I hating? I don't have any emotional connection to politics, so I can talk about it dispassionately because I really generally don't really give a damn what happens. But I will use it as source material to do these things like what I'm doing right now. But I don't really care. I have my opinions, but generally I'm not emotionally engaged in the outcomes. So that's why I can talk about anything in any way. Richard said, Booker said a whole lot, but isn't going to do anything. Well, Richard, welcome to American politics. That's what they all do. They all say a whole lot, and don't do much. Only one I've seen actually do a lot of stuff they said was Donald Trump. And look at the blowback he gets from actually following through on his promises. Trey Everett said, Booker wasn't resisting. Oh, yeah, I responded to that. AJ said, there's a large article on the amounts of time Trump was racist. Bro, it's okay. I didn't think I said anything about Trump being racist or not being racist. Why are you bringing that up? So this is another one of those Socratic traps. But let's just say, so what? Let's say there is an article that says Trump is racist, or here's the times Trump is racist. My response to that is, what's your point? Number one, racism is a way of thinking. It is not a behavior. If you look up the definition, the first definition is the most common one, and the biggest definition of racism. Number one is a mindset that you believe one race is greater than the other just due to the fact that you're one race and others another, i.e. black and white. And therefore, with racism being a mindset, secondly, no human being on the planet has the ability to read the mind of another human. You cannot assert that another person is racist. You can accuse another person of being racist, but you cannot assert it because racism is not a behavior. It's not something that you can objectively observe. I can't look at you being racist. Or here's something racist you did. That's not really a thing. Racism is a way of thinking, not a behavior. And that's another word that's been overused, racism. And Trump's presence caused a lot of people to start overusing the word by calling him racist. Oh, he's racist. So he did this racist. This is racist. And that happened. That's racist. And when you start overusing a term, especially a pejorative, the problem is the pejorative ceases to have power because now no one really hears it. It's like the boy who cried wolf. If you keep crying wolf, eventually people are not going to drop everything and go save you from the wolf because you keep saying it. Now, eventually they'll be like, all right, we got it. He's racist. Yes, we know. We heard you the last 20 times that you said it. So every time people keep calling Trump racist, it actually loses the value of the word racist. Summer Top says the economy is crashing and you want to talk about Cory Booker. I talked about the economy the other day. I talked about the reciprocal tariffs, Trump's term. What was that? Monday? Yeah, I talked about the reciprocal tariffs on Monday, Summer Top. So I suggest you consult my YouTube channel and watch the replay. I gave you 2 hours on that subject. And at the same time, this is also a Socratic trap, what you just did. Oh, this is something that you think is important, and I'm talking about this, and you're trying to frame it as if I'm doing something wrong. Well, the economy's crashing, Summer Top, and here you are watching TikTok videos. So who's wrong here, me or you? AJ Ward said, brown people that voted for Trump are being deported. It's sad. Well, they're not being deported because they voted for Trump. They're being deported because they're here illegally. So, I mean, it don't matter who you voted for. If you're here illegally, actually, you shouldn't be voting at all. How'd they even get a vote? So, AJ Ward, I'm not quite sure that's true. Danny said, the Democrats have been ridiculously dishonest. That's not new. That's been the situation. Murphy said, I hope Trump doesn't say he likes coffee because the Democrats will ban it. Yeah, I don't think he's going to say that. I don't know. Does Donald Trump drink coffee? I don't know. Tickles says, I like that take. That's why the political class has failed so much against Trump. Yeah, they failed because he's a different type of politician. He doesn't operate by the political playbook. And it's one of the reasons why it's very hard to defeat him. The traditional politicians can't beat him because they're playing by the normal playbook. He doesn't play by that book. That's why Hillary failed. That's why Kamala failed. And who knows what happened with Biden. We ain't going to talk about that. I don't want to get banned today. T said, are you using ChatGPT to answer questions? No, don't you see me? You can see me looking at the screen right now, reading and responding. I use ChatGPT to ask a specific question about a logical fallacy that I didn't have a name for. And it gave me a name for it. So I'm glad they gave me that because now I will add it to my vocabulary. Pete Dragon says, you can't answer the question and have to ask chat weak. Really? How many questions have I answered here today? Y'all see me looking at the fucking screen. How am I asking chat? I asked ChatGPT one thing, it wasn't even an answer to a question. I asked ChatGPT to define a logical fallacy. I wanted a name for it because logical fallacies have names. I described the fallacy and asked it to give me a name because I knew it had a name and it gave me the name. It's called a Socratic trap. But anybody trying to claim that I can't answer questions without asking chat, please. I've answered. How many questions have I responded to so far here today? 100? So nice try, Pete Dragon. Tickle said they don't have any enemies forever and their blades become dull. Yes, that's what happens. Alex said you got to ask the right question. Very true. Yes, so you got to give it the right prompt. Heidi, I never heard of it either. That's why I asked, because I knew it existed. Perla said, I think MAGA is more irrational than they are sharp. Why enact blanket tariffs instead of targeted? Well, Perla, if you really believe that, you should be working in the administration. I mean, the thing about politics is that no matter what you do, half the people are going to be pissed off at you. That's one of the reasons why I would never get in politics. And there are no blanket right answers. No such thing as a right answer in politics. There's no such thing. Now, what happens is when you're a president, you make a decision. Everybody second guesses your decision, or half the people at least are going to second guess your decision. So if you're a Republican, all the Democrats are going to second guess what you just did. They're going to make it seem like what you just did is terrible. And then if it goes wrong in any way, shape, or form, they're going to say, see, look at the terrible thing this person did. That's the game that you're signing up for when you become a politician, is that you're getting bashed by half the people no matter what you do. There is no right answer, because no matter what happens with Trump's outcome, people are going to find a way to make it seem bad. So right now, the economy is going down, right? The market's down. If the market goes back up 6 months from now, the people who don't like Donald Trump are going to find a way to make it seem negative, and or they will just change the subject to something else they can say bad about him. That's how politics works. So there's no right answer, because no matter what you do, you're going to get trashed. Alex says, show no emotion, show no weakness. Yes, it's one way of looking at it. The executive's coach says, I love this guy. What's it about today? Well, it was about Cory Booker's nonsense speech. And now I'm just responding to people's questions. AJ said, was that a feminine question you did? Which one? What did I say? Peekaboo said, he's bringing attention to what your local officials will or won't do. Who is? You talking about me, or you talking about someone else? Yvonne, thank you for the follow. Thomas Wolf said, bro is spitting. Thank you. Then right after that, bro, Beef Stroke says, bro thinks he's smart. So which one is it? Am I spitting, or do I think I'm smart? It's funny reading these comments, because there'll be one comment complimenting me. Right after that, somebody's criticizing me for the exact same thing. I live in the state of Florida. I'm in South Florida. I'm never leaving Florida. I mean, I'll leave to travel, but I'm not moving out of South Florida. If I move out of South Florida, I'm leaving the country. Elias says, can you impeach Trump? Well, the Democrats could if they get control of the Congress. If they get control of the Congress, they will impeach him, guaranteed. If the Democrats get control of Congress in the 2026 midterms, Donald Trump will get impeached for a third time, guaranteed. It's not going to succeed, but he will get impeached. So impeach just means to bring the charge, but he would have to actually get convicted. He's not going to get convicted, but they're going to try if they get control. Right now, they can't do it because they don't have enough votes. Kudo says, it seems like a lot of you are intimidated by him and his success. Executive coach, thank you for the follow. Alex says, everyone has a lot on their mind nowadays. Generally. When it comes to current events, Alex, everybody has an opinion. That's the reason why I talk about current events on these live streams, because it's interesting because people are interested in it. Anything that's a current event, you're going to get a lot of engagement simply because everyone's thinking about it. My actual business is more evergreen, but evergreen stuff is not nearly as conversation-inducing as current events. Jonah called me Anderson Silva. I think I look better than Anderson Silva. Easy Am said, I'm simply asking the same question you're posing about what Booker did. How does this help us? I don't work for the public. Cory Booker does, Easy Am. That's the part you're getting wrong. I'm not a public official. You don't pay my salary. I pay Cory Booker's salary. Therefore, I can question his behavior. You can't question mine. I don't work for anyone. Willie Saturday said, maybe you're just bad at grifting. Hey, maybe I am. Actually, you know what? I agree. I am bad at grifting because I'm not grifting. I run a business. So I'm not grifting. Grifting means you're swindling and conning people. I ain't swindling and conning anyone. Please check my receipts. Again, check my receipts. If I'm grifting, please prove that I'm grifting. Find someone who says I grifted them. So yes, I am bad at grifting. I do not participate. Someone say grifter. Again, here we go with the grifter again. Amber said, grammatically correct isn't correct. Oh, well, just say it isn't grammatical or it is grammatical. Really? Is that true? That one I didn't know. So, Amber, if you're right about that, let's ask ChatGPT. So, Amber, I'm about to fact check you right here. But if that's true, then I'll make sure I got that right. I didn't know that. So, is the phrase grammatically correct in and of itself? So, here I am asking ChatGPT, question I can't answer. So, here's what they say. Chat might be busy right now. It's taking its time answering my question. So, oops. All right, it answered the wrong question. I meant the phrase grammatically correct. dash, is it correct to say things that way? I think my prompt might be off here. You're asking if the phrase grammatically correct is correct to use as a phrase. They say, yes, it is grammatically correct to say grammatically correct. So Amber, the ChatGPT disagrees with you. So when you say, is that grammatically correct? You're asking, is that correct in terms of grammar? Totally legit, clear, and widely accepted in both speech and writing. Let me know if you meant it in a different context. Happy to clarify further. So Amber and beyond, I appreciate what you said there. I mean, it's a different way of saying it, but ChatGPT is disagreeing with your correction. So you can tell me what you think about that. Cooper said, I've listened to you for weeks and still have no idea why you support Trump. Well, Cooper, I don't know what you've been listening to, but never once have I said I support Trump. So how have you been listening to me for weeks and even come to that conclusion? That is a straw man statement. Also known as also a Socratic trap, because you're asserting and pinning something on me that I never actually said, and then you're putting me in a position to defend against it. So it's a straw man Socratic trap combination. So congratulations on that double entendre logical fallacy. Summertop says the economy is crashing and you want to talk about Cory Booker. No, he already answered that one. Single file said anyone who makes a living is a grifter, right? The kid that started. Yes, exactly. That's the thing about grifting. Anybody who's making money doing anything, they get called a grifter. So it doesn't mean anything anymore. Peekaboo said, are they saying grifting is a new grind? Yes, that's what it is. Grifting is a new grind. Grifting is a new thing. When someone's doing something professionally and you don't like it, you call them a grifter. That's what it is now. The real Cam said, this is strange ASF. What are you talking about? Toe Bean said he stood up to Trump on the Senate floor. No, he didn't. Trump wasn't there. How you going to stand up to somebody who's not there? How do you stand up to him? What are you talking about? Then Sons Boehm said he didn't stand up. He just talked. Yeah, how would you stand up to somebody and they're not even there? You can't stand up to somebody who's not present. David Alv said, bro is licking the business class boots. Who's the business class? What does that even mean? Can someone define business class? David Alv, define business class so I can be clear who you were talking about. Dally Mack said, there's so many emotional people in this chat and it shows. Well, when you talk about current events, usually people do get emotional, but that's good, Dally Mack. It's actually not a bad thing. It's good that people get emotional because when people are emotional, they pay attention. And we are in the attention business. Ali Hoop says, solid live. I like the direct approach you take. Thank you. I talk like this all day. Alex said, I don't believe that Biden won that election legitimately. Wait, don't get me banned off TikTok, Alex. That's why I said I'm not even going to talk about it. I want to get banned off TikTok. Highway said, a whole generation of men raised by women. Of course, there's feminine energy. Trump policies are fascist. Okay, well, the feminine energy part you're right about. Trump policies, well, that's what his opponents say. So I don't know what you want me to say about that. Carmine said, you would have worked on your game. You wouldn't need to write 40 plus books. Carmine, explain what you mean by that. I don't need to write any books. I didn't need to write one. I chose to write books. And I chose to work on my game. I literally have a book called, Work on Your Game. I literally wrote a book to help other people work on their games. So Carmine, explain to me what exactly you mean by that. Prank said, Joe Biden failed as well, other than having a lot of dead people vote. Again, don't get me kicked off TikTok. Are y'all trying to get me banned off TikTok with these Joe Biden 2020 election comments? Stat said, why is there so much hate in these comments? VS Halsey said, that's not the only way. Trump got where he is because of his speech. Yes, Trump is a very good speaker. He speaks differently. He's a different good speaker than Obama is. They're different in completely different ways, but they're both very effective. Antonio said, do some of you people in the chat ever get exhausted being mean and nasty? Antonio, this is the internet. Don't believe what you see on the internet. People play a role on the internet. You notice that a lot of these people don't even have their real name or real face on their accounts. This is just entertainment for people. And I'm happy to entertain you. I'm in the attention business. Danny says, more like Democrat supporters are easily manipulated. Well, again, the Democrats say that about the Republicans. So that's the issue with that frame. Everybody says it about the people they don't like. Susan said, if that's true, why do all major corporations and bank CEOs vote Democrat? Well, a lot of them do. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. And a lot of them do support the blue. And one of the reasons why is because it depends on who's in charge. I mean, when you run a big corporation and or you're the CEO of a big corporation, you pretty much have to stick your finger in the air and find out which way the wind is blowing, because whichever side is in charge, you need to be cool with them, because if they don't like you, they can start looking into your company. They can start investigating you They can change the rules, they can change the laws, and they can really hurt your company if you're not on their side. So whatever side is in charge, people in big companies have to get on their side. That's the way politics works. There's a reason why you saw Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg at the inauguration. Had Kamala won, guess what? Those same two dudes would have been there supporting Kamala had she won. That's the way politics works. And when you have a huge business in America, you have no choice but to play this game. Elon Musk, he would have been there the same way that Bezos and Zuckerberg were, except Elon Musk decided to basically put his nuts on the table, and he put a bunch of money behind one candidate. He said, I'm supporting this guy. I want this guy to win. And had he been wrong, Elon Musk would have been in a lot of trouble had he had Kamala won that election. So he just placed his bet. And because he placed that bet, now he gets to reap the benefits of his winning bet. But had he lost that bet, he would be in a whole lot of trouble under what would have been a Harris administration, a Harris-Walz administration. Imagine that. AJ said, do you take yes? No. Daryl said, the problem is people vote by feelings and not policies. That's 100% correct on both sides. V.S. Housey said, because Trump made white men feel he heard their complaints. 100% true. Yes, that is true. Jared said, and they're proving it with the billionaire tax breaks, got them to vote for him via low IQ voters. Not really, Jared. I've explained the billionaire, quote unquote, billionaire tax breaks. I've explained this many times. I'll say it very quickly here. Billionaires don't become billionaires by having 9-to-5 jobs. They become billionaires by owning businesses and by being investors. And when you're a billionaire, you have the resources and the tools to take your money out of the United States of America to where you cannot be taxed. The United States government understands this. They also understand the fact that a lot of people don't know. The majority of money that the government collects in taxes come from billionaires. So even though they are getting quote unquote tax breaks, the majority of the money the government collects in taxes are still from the rich. And the government understands this, and they say, we can't have all the rich people leaving us. Therefore, we're not going to have any money from taxes because they'll be gone. We need to incentivize these people to stay here. So one of the incentives they give to billionaires and quote unquote the rich and corporations is tax breaks so that they stay in America, keep their businesses and the jobs that they provide in America so that America can keep, number one, collecting tax dollars from them, and number two, collecting tax dollars from the employees who work at their companies. So these billionaire quote unquote tax breaks are not hurting the everyday person. They don't even involve you. You're going to pay taxes no matter what the government does. Why? Because if you're a W-2 employee, you're paying taxes no matter what, whether billionaires are paying taxes or not. And what the Democratic Party has done a great job of, a masterful job of, is getting the everyday person excited, positively or negatively, about what taxes the billionaires are paying, as if that is somehow, some way affecting you. Bernie Sanders has mastered this. AOC is his understudy. He's done a great job of this, getting a whole bunch of people excited about how much taxes a billionaire is paying, as if that has anything to do with the taxes that you're paying. And generally, it does not. If you want to avoid taxes, you cannot be a W-2 employee. That can't be your only way of making money. Even if you don't become a billionaire, there's a lot of space in between. Ben said, everyone is so afraid of Trump because he is so transparent. That's one of the reasons, yes, because he will tell you exactly what he thinks, and he doesn't filter his speech through the political playbook. Everyone else does. And that's one of the problems for a lot of politicians. One of the reasons why Obama was so effective is because he was filtering through the political playbook, but he knew how to filter it in a way that made it sound like normal conversation. And he was a very good speaker. Hillary Clinton is not nearly as good as Barack, and Kamala is worse than Hillary. It's one of the reasons why Kamala failed. One of the reasons she shouldn't have been the candidate in the first place. That was a misstep by the Democratic Party, even having her be the person. She's just not a good speaker. The more she talked, the worse it got. David said, money is corrupting the country like you, bro. I don't know what that means. Chase said, people actually listen to your logical fallacy. I don't know what do you mean by that? Ann said, agree or disagree with Dre, but if you have brain, makes you think. Read his bio and books. Yeah, read my bio and books. That's a good idea. Thank you, Ann. Let's see. AJ said, Trump can't read. AJ, you run out of material? Susan said, Democrats are for the working class, and why do all corporations and banks support Democrats? Yeah, it's a good question. Not all of them, but there's a good amount of them. But I just explained, they all got to play the game. So they all got to play the game. They got to support whatever side they think is going to best position them to do business the way they want to do business. Ben said, I'd rather have a president who speaks what he thinks and feels. Me too. Trump is a breath of fresh air for people who are not strongly offended by his presence. A lot of people are so offended by him that they can't say anything positive about him. Princeton Fade said, serious question, what Cory Booker should have done? He should have done his normal job just like all the other senators whose names we're not talking about right now because they didn't give a 25-hour speech on the floor. He should have just kept doing his normal job. Like every other senator out there. How many senators are there? 100, right? 2 from every state. He should have did the same thing the other 99 senators were doing, which is actually doing your fucking job. What he did during that speech was not part of his job. It didn't help anybody. And he could have saved everybody 25 hours of attention. Matt said, how was Booker reading off a paper for 25 hours? I didn't say that. I said sometimes he was because he had binders. He said this himself. He had binders from his staff that would bring him notes and info so he had more material to keep going. Because you have to keep talking. If you want to hold the floor, you got to keep speaking. You can't stop. And he would read letters from people, and then he would say what he has to say about it. Then he'd read another one. Then he would say he has to say. That's what he was doing. He wasn't reading the whole time. And what I was saying also was politicians in general, when they are speaking, especially at hearings, if you watch any of the hearings, you will see the people on the committees literally reading off a piece of paper. They're talking into the mic, but they're reading off a piece of paper while they're saying what they got to say. Cory Booker does that often. If you go look up the videos, you'll see him. He's not a great public speaker. It's one of the reasons why he's probably not going to advance any further than he is, because he's not a great public speaker. You got to be a really good public speaker to contend for president. Sarah said he was reading people's personal stories. Yes, I know. I think I've said that 3 times already. Ben said, we as Americans are over typical politicians. We want real people as politicians. Well, Ben, you're going to be kind of disappointed in 2028 because Trump's going to be gone and we're going to be right back to everyday politicians. Was Kamala a good public speaker? No. 80s man said Obama's a great example of the best public speaker ever. Trump says what his base wants to hear. So does Obama. 80s man. That's a false frame there. Obama is a great public speaker. I don't know if he's the best ever. He is very good. He's the best Democrat that we've seen this century. Trump is the best Republican we've seen this century. And Trump says what his base wants to hear. Again, Obama says what his base wants to hear. You can't win an election without saying what your base wants to hear. So Obama, having been a 2-time president, he had no choice but to say what his base wants to hear. There's no way you can win an election without doing that. So your frame is off there. Is it Mickey or Mikey? Mickey Dash says some voted thinking they would get a stimulus check. Is the House of Representatives not the president's stimulus check? Sonia said, I like the way you speak to people. Thank you. Young Edward, thank you for the follow. Yvonne said, would it have taken you 25 hours to reach a point? Well, if I was trying to take 25 hours, I could take 25 hours. But I don't know if I want to give a 25-hour speech. There would have to be a tangible benefit to me to give a 25-hour speech. I don't see one. Susan said, why do Major... Susan, you said that comment like 3 times. Jasmine, 80s man said, Jasmine is the only one I see doing anything of consequence. Are you joking? What is she doing? Jasmine, what do you see? I mean, not Jasmine, 80s man. What do you see Jasmine doing? Jasmine Crockett? What is she doing of consequence? I think she has less substance than Cory Booker. If I had to pick one, I'd rather Cory Booker than her. King Works on Instagram said, what you are saying makes sense. I need to do some research on this topic. All right. Good stuff. Baby Dog said, with more development in AI, we should be able to know if their information is accurate. Not really, because who's sourcing the AI information? Where's the AI information coming from? So how do you know that the AI's knowledge base is accurate? That's the issue, folks. That's why we're in an information war, because you never know who has accurate information. The answer is we'll never know. From this point moving forward, ladies and gentlemen, I'm recording this in 2025. You will never know who has accurate information or not. We don't have journalism anymore to give us the truth. You have to find out the truth on your own. Most people are too lazy to do that. Therefore, there's always going to be this battle between my information and your information, and no one has to accept anybody else's information. That's the reason why we're in the information war, and that war is never ending. AI is still programmed by humans. Where does AI get all this information from? The internet. What's on the internet? A bunch of people saying stuff on different sides of the same point. So how do we know what's true and what's not true? So you'll never know what's accurate. LakeMWilson.com says, would you run for president? Probably not. No. First of all, I don't want to work in the public sector. I'm not built for the public sector. Secondly, I don't like working in bureaucratic organizations because I'm going to say the wrong thing to the wrong person, or somebody's going to say the wrong thing to me that would end my career. Third, I speak too objectively and I try to see both sides of every conversation. Therefore, I would alienate my base as soon as I said anything that they didn't like hearing, and therefore I would not win. Fourth, I don't want to put a ceiling on my income potential by being in politics because there's a certain amount that you make and there's a set salary. And as an entrepreneur, there is no set salary. You have unlimited income potential. So I wouldn't want that. Fifth, I like my autonomy, my ability and freedom to say and do whatever I want to do. And it's not operate by and rules you got to operate by. Six, there's a system of checks and balances in the government. Everything you want to do, you got to go through somebody else before you can do it. As an entrepreneur, I have no system of checks and balances. I do whatever the hell I want to do. So for all those reasons, no. So in short, they would have to make me an offer I can't refuse if I was to ever even think about getting into politics. David said, doesn't care about politics. Dude only cares about money. Who are you talking about? What dude? Sarah says, 7 a.m. People are already angry. Great discussion, LOL. Well, it's over here is almost 10 a.m. Peekaboo said, honesty seems to be your policy. Well, peekaboo it is. And if I was lying to you, I wouldn't tell you. So yes, honesty is my policy. AJ says, not a trap you don't read during the post. It's so out of context. Well, I told everybody when I started reading the comments that I'm reading from the top. And the comments are coming faster than I can read them. Ed said, if your thoughts become your actions, how can racism mindset not manifest in action? Well, Ed, that's a really good question. Here's the answer. If someone does something, you can read it and measure it and say, this is what they did. But how do you know what thought led to that action? It could be a lot of different thoughts that lead to the same action. So I'm black, right? If I walk into the street and I see a white man and I slap him in the face, is it because I don't like white people, or is it because he owes me money, or is it because he slapped me 2 days ago and now I'm just slapping him back? If all you see is me slapping him, how can you assert what mindset led to that behavior? You don't know because you can't read my mind. So that's the answer to your question. Almond said, yet their boy Biden has a multitude of proven racism. Don't they actually research? Well, the way that people frame racism, yes, the same things you can say about Trump, you can say about Biden. But I will assert that you cannot take someone's actions and say they're racist based on their actions. Because again, you need to know the thoughts behind the actions. Now, there's some things Biden has said that the way most people claim racism could definitely apply racism. The answer is absolutely yes. If you're going to do that to Trump, then you absolutely can do it to Biden. But people seem to overlook that because he's a Democrat, I suppose. Sean said, what if everything he does is in fact racist? Again, do you have the ability to read minds? Because if so, then please share it with us, because that ability would change everything about humanity. Racism is a thought, is not an action. Now, some people disagree with that. They say, well, racism is an action. I say, no, it's not. Again, we can't even agree on definitions. This is the reason why the whole argument around racism is what it is. People can't even agree what racism means. You got black people out there who think, well, you can't be racist if you don't traditionally have power. Therefore, a black person can't be racist. Bullshit. But there are some people who truly believe that, and nothing I say would change their minds. And again, this is the reason why we have an information war. We can't even agree on information. If we can't agree on information, then we can't even have conversations. This is the reason why you see such a divide in the general population these days, because people can't even agree on basic facts or what is true, what is not true, what's the definition of a word. We can't agree on anything. So this is the reason why we have what we have. And I'm telling you all that to say this is only going to get worse. This is just a start. 10 years from now is going to be even worse, because we're going to be further and further apart in terms of what we agree on. And the argument is not even going to be, people are going to be arguing about things when they're on two completely different. Now they say people are not on the same page. These days, people are not even in the same book. And 10 years from now, we're not even going to be in the same library. All right, you're going to be in a library over here. I'm being in a library over there. All right, the same page is going to be an old problem compared to where we're going. A fitness girl said, you always look so dapper. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Stats said, every ism in the English language is so massively overused. That is very much true. Melissa said, I truly enjoy your snapbacks of some of these comments. So thank you. That's the reason I read them. I get good at this. So when I go into real life and somebody says something dumb to me, it's easy because I get all this practice on TikTok. So thank you, all you leaving comments. Grimes said, the economy is getting worse. The stocks were way under during the Biden administration. Yeah, well, I'm just reading comments, Grimes. And yes, you're right. where the economy is now, these same things were happening during the Biden administration. Just nobody made noise about it because people weren't actively trying to make Biden look bad. Well, not as many as they are now. Ed said, like, if I see someone commit a pattern of behaviors, you can understand where their head's at. Case by case basis, Ed. I would say it's a case by case basis. Maybe. I try to be very careful at assuming I know what another person is thinking. I can judge your actions. I cannot judge your thoughts. So I just go off your actions. So what I would say, Ed, and I would rephrase it this way. I get what you're trying to say, but here's what I would say. If I see someone doing a whole bunch of the same things, what you're saying is you're going to assume the way that they think based on the things that they're doing. What I'm going to say is that I'm just going to judge them based on the actions. I don't care what they're thinking. I would even say that to that person. Like, listen, I don't know what's going on in your head, but I saw you do this, 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 and this. And based on what I saw, here's what I feel about your situation. Based on what I see. I don't care about their thoughts. Because somebody could tell me they're thinking one thing and do something completely different. Now, the one way that, since we cannot read other people's minds, the closest thing you can come to knowing the way someone thinks is listening to them speak. Because the brain and the mouth are very close to each other in anatomically. And it's very hard for a person. This is the reason why they say, if you look at somebody's face and you look at their eyes, you often can tell what someone is feeling by watching their eyes. If you learn to really pay attention to people. Why? Because the thoughts that we have in our brain, the eyes are right there. So whatever we're thinking, the eyes give it away before everything else gives it away. The eyes give it away before the hands because the hands are further away from the brain and your legs are further away from the brain. So if you really want to know what someone is thinking, watch their face because the brain is right there and their facial expressions tell you exactly what's going on, but you got to catch the micro expressions. So you got to catch it because it might flash on their face for a second, then it disappears. But you got to learn how to pay attention to people in order to do that. I'm saying all that to say, Ed, to answer your question, just judge people's actions. Don't even worry about what they're thinking. Just judge their actions. And if you judge people's actions, you can go off of that because a person can lie to you about what they meant to do. Like my son will do something wrong and then he'll say, well, sorry, daddy, I didn't mean to do that. Well, I don't say this to him because he's only 2 years old. But what I would say to someone who's 22 years old, I don't care what you meant to do. I'm going off what you actually did. And that's it. I don't need to go any further than that. Rhyme said, for stuff to get worse, it has to get better, just like in his first term. Yes, I agree. That's the way life works. But people don't, no one wants to recognize that because they don't like Trump. Ruthie said he doesn't drink coffee. Yeah, I've never seen him drinking coffee, so I bet you're probably right. Almond said he drinks Diet Coke. Yeah, why do people drink Diet Coke? I don't drink soda at all, but I've tasted Diet Coke, and it tastes terrible compared to regular Coke. And is it actually diet? How are you drinking a diet soda? That doesn't even make sense. It's like it's a oxymoron. Diet soda. Ain't nothing but sugar. Ed said, understanding their mindset hints as if you're reading their mind. Yeah, but you can't really read somebody's mind. That's the problem. Princeton Fade said, thoughts on White House trade deficits as tariffs. I talked about that 2 days ago, Princeton Feed. Please look at see my YouTube channel. Links in my profile. AJ said, you dismiss questions. You damn right I dismiss questions. I can't read every single question. Some of these questions ain't worth addressing. So you're right about that. Ben said, I love people like you who aren't afraid to cuss. No, I'm not afraid to cuss. Y'all should hear me on some of my other content. I edit myself a lot when I'm on TikTok because TikTok has suspended me a bunch of times for saying stuff. Thomas said, what do you think about the White House Faith Office? Never heard of it. Don't know what you're talking about. There's a lot of comments here today. We're not getting through all these comments, folks. I'm telling you right now. Let's see. All right. Racing said, Trump's tariffs are making us $2 billion a day. I don't know that to be true, but okay. I'll just say it. David says, obviously you support Trump. You spin and move the goalposts. What goalposts? I haven't set any goalposts. And that's a Socratic trap, what you just did there. It's obvious you support Trump. Amber said, grammatical is an absolute. Either it is or it isn't. Grammatical is already correct. All right, Amber, I get what you're saying. And I appreciate the lesson here. But I'm just telling you what ChatGPT told me. But maybe I'll start using yours. I'm going to get conscious about it now that you brought it up. So I might start using it. Irma V, thank you for the lightning bolt. Good to see you again. User said, not when emotions can control you. Yeah, exactly. This is why males need to control their emotions. Beth Montgomery says, not just his opponents who call him fascist, his history, his scholars, he is a fascist. Okay. Well, what do you want me to say to that, Beth? You're making an assertion here that he is a fascist and it's not just his opponents, it's history, it's scholars. Well, what history? Again, history is written by the people who write the history books. And if they happen, or you happen to read something from a historian that causes you to frame him as a fascist, that is still your opinion. It's not a fact. It's your opinion. No matter how strongly you hold an opinion, it still is an opinion, which means it can be challenged and it can be pushed back against, and there's always an equal and opposite opinion. So, Beth, my question to you, since you put this out here so strongly, someone who strongly disagrees with your perspective, what do they say, and what is their best argument, and what's your response to it? That's what I say to anyone who has a very strong opinion on anything. Tell me someone who's just as smart as you, what is their opinion? If they completely disagree with you, what would they say, and what is your response to what they would say? Thank you for the TikTok hat. I never saw that one before. And in my experience, Beth, I'm going to see if I get to your comment, we'll see if you have a response. In my experience, when people have a really strong opinion on one side of something, especially something like what you're talking about, they often don't have an answer to the question that I just asked. Someone who's just as smart as you, who believes the opposite of you, what would they say? And what do you say to that? And what I'm asking you to do is what we call the steel man. The steel man is when you take your perspective or the perspective of your opponent, the perspective of your opponent. See, this is what happens when you're talking for 2 hours straight. The perspective of your opponent, and you make their argument even better than they can make it, which means you're basically disproving yourself. You're disproving your own perspective. I find that most people don't have the ability to do that. Hilton Ramon said a lot of emotional guys in the comments. You never know who these people are. They might not even be real people. Stash said Trump is a straightforward communicator. I think all of us can agree with that. Serena Townsend said, the only side you take is your side. I love that just one of your books can. I didn't get the rest of your comment there. Whichever side can be bought is the way they go. Well, Danny, that's pretty much how it works. That's how it works in the government. Zuckerberg donated $400 million to the Democrat campaign. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, he does whatever he has to do. He has to go which way the wind is blowing. He doesn't have a choice. He really doesn't have a choice. If you own Facebook, you have to do the same thing he's doing. Sally said, thank you. You're very informative. Thank you. AJ said, Elon is already in a lot of trouble. He's more emotional than anybody. Well, there's nothing wrong with actually being emotional. And I don't know how emotional Elon is. I don't know him. And AJ, I'm assuming you don't know him either. All you know about is what you see on TV. I would be careful drawing too much judgment about how a person really is if you only place you ever seen them is on a TV screen or a phone screen. And what kind of trouble are you talking about also? Investing in stock market is like gambling on people's feelings. I would push back against that. Not quite. GoBird said, so majority of taxes come from the rich, but we give them tax breaks. Which is it? Both, motherfucker. Did you not hear me explain it? It's both. The majority of tax dollars come from the rich. We give them tax breaks so that they don't leave, because even the money that they pay in taxes, even with the breaks, is more than what the government collects from everybody else. Who does not understand this? That's called a trade-off. It's the third law of economics. No such thing as a free lunch. If you want billionaires to stay here and keep their companies here, you have to give them incentives to do so. Go Birds, I responded to your question there. So you posted it 3 times. Go Bird said, why aren't you at work right now? I am at work. I'm working right now. Dre Baldwin for president instead. I don't think I get enough votes from either side. If I ran as a Republican, I might say some things Republicans don't like, and then I'm not going to win. David said, the rich people corrupt tax system, then congratulate themselves for being smart. Well, if your goal is to make money and you're rich, then I guess that means you are smart. Right, David? What do you think? If your goal is to make a lot of money and then you do it, then you're smart. Peekaboo said Cory Booker was using the sympathy strategy. Yes, the Democrats use that a lot. And against Trump is a good strategy because Trump is so, I think you could call him toxic masculine, the way most people describe it. Because he is so toxic masculine, the correct way to go against him is to pull the sympathy card. So it's actually a good strategy against Trump. The problem is Trump ain't running for election anymore, so people really need to find a new strategy. Ezam said, clearly the speech has substance. You decided to take a whole live questioning it. Okay, you say so. Socratic trap there. Nice try, though. AJ Ward said, Trump doesn't read, so he can't speak intellectually or understand anything he needs to say. Well, 2 things I'll tell you. Donald Trump has written probably more books than you have, AJ. That's number 1. If you can't read, then you probably can't write a book. And number 2, I know from firsthand knowledge that people I've done business with who have done business with Trump, they're older guys and they have done business with Trump. And they say when they talk to Trump personally, he often asks them, what 2 books are you reading right now? I've had people who have worked with him actually tell me that he asked them that question. Now, you can take that as anecdote. You can say that I made it up. I believe it to be true because he's a guy who actually has written books. So I assume he probably reads them too. Just from what I know about people who read and write. And I know a lot of people in that group. Les Scott said, be careful, a possible third term looms. Yeah, it's just conjecture. Is he actually going to run a third time? No. There'll be a civil war if he seriously did it. I mean, he says it like he's serious, but it's not going to happen. Again, what TV show have y'all been watching for the last 10 years? Y'all understand that he says things like that to get people excited and riled up, and then he doesn't actually do it. He just does it to control people's attention. Have y'all not learned? He's been doing this for 10 years straight. I mean, are y'all slow learners? This is what he does. 10 years of the same thing, and people still haven't caught on. Pro said, given cost and supply chain disruption, do you think this domestic manufacturing can drive real growth? Yes. Yes, it can drive real growth because more people will have jobs. More things are happening in America. It may be an increased cost, at least in the short term, but in the long term, the market will fix itself. And yes, it can, because you want people to have jobs and you want people to feel optimistic about the future, which means they will spend more money, which drives the economy. Ultimately, we won't know until it actually happens. DJ says, I questioned AI on something. I thought it was false, and it said I was correct. Well, it depends on which AI it was. That's the issue. The biggest issue with AI and Google and all these easy access we have to quote unquote information these days is that all of us have to think for ourselves and decide what to trust and what not to trust. That's the challenge. Sherry said, we are in the dark where they want us to be. I don't know who they is, but no. Ed says, like an English game of telephone, now the AI is involved. Oh, the game hasn't even started yet, Ed. Y'all haven't seen nothing yet. Wait till 2035. If y'all think what we're in now is crazy, give it 10 years. And Ms. Jackie said, every reason you said Trump does. Reason of what? Serena said, don't trust fact checkers. Do your own fact check. Love the fact that you don't follow the narrative. Yes, you have to do your own fact check. The problem is, how are you going to fact check? That's the problem. It's like a circular problem. There's no solution to this problem. That's why we're in trouble, folks. we are really in trouble. Easy Am said, you're very good at gaslighting. What gaslighting did I do? Linda B, good morning to you. Just plain fit. Say, good morning, sir. Can I ask you what that wireless mic is? Yes, it's called a Rode, Rode, wireless mic. Costs $150. I used to buy these cheap mics off Amazon, but this mic is way better. Ed Tucci said, we can't agree on definitions. Everything's context. Yes, exactly. And again, it's about to get crazier. Y'all think it's crazy now. Again, just wait. Mickey said, racism starts in the mind. It may not be followed by racist behavior. Yeah, that's correct. The problem is you can't read another person's mind. So how do you know who's racist? That's the reason why I don't even like when people start calling people racist. Like, who cares? Because first of all, racism is not a crime. So if someone wants to be racist, they're allowed to be. Racism is not something you can't call the cops on somebody for being racist. Well, in some countries you can, but hopefully that never comes to America. People can think whatever they want to think. They can be racist, they can be sexist, they can be misogynist, they can be homophobic. You be whatever you want to be in your mind, and you can even say it out loud if you want to. Someone can stand outside on the corner in Miami and say, I hate all black people, and they're allowed to say that if they want to. What I'm going to do? File a police report? People can think whatever they want to think, and everyone should allow people to think what they want to think. And the First Amendment protects free speech. Serena said, I bought one of your books. Can't wait to read it. Which one? Which book did you get? Say said, Trump literally lies all the time. All politicians lie all the time. What politician doesn't lie? Name a politician that always tells the truth. Please say their name. Say said, there's no one that smart. I think Trump isn't somewhat fastest in his tendencies. So that's a Socratic trap there. And it's also a, what's the one? That's a, what would I call it? I call it appeal to intelligence. So anyone who doesn't agree with you can't be that smart, is what you just did there, Sage. Nice try. I think you truly believe that, but it's still a nice try. September, thanks for the follow. Pretty Little Genius said, this is sad to say the least. I'll keep the remainder of my opinions to myself. Okay, your choice. But the internet is made for people to share their opinions, so you might as well. Kilo, Carla said, George Washington doesn't lie. All right, George Washington. Okay, that's a good one. George Washington was known for not lying. That is true. Let's see. Where was I? All right. We may get to the end of the tunnel here when it comes to the. AJ says, is that a promotional question Trump does cause he picked it up from business minds? I don't quite understand your question. There was never supposed to be term limits on the president, Tara Mill. Yes, so thank George Washington for that. He set the precedent of 2 terms. AJ Ward said, as in asking questions that makes people think he thinks critically. Are you talking about me or are you talking about Trump? I don't know who you're talking about. You got to be careful with the pronouns here because by the time I read your comment, I don't know what you're responding to. Terrell said, Constitution said presidents can't run more than twice, but he can run for a vice president. I don't think Trump is built to be a vice president. He's not that type of person. He hasn't had a personality. There's a certain type of personality that can be a vice president. Trump ain't that. AJ said, one problem with fact checking is that Trump is erasing history and making his own shit up. Everybody's erasing history and making their own shit up. AJ, you're making your own shit up too. Everybody makes their own shit up. He's just famous. He's more famous than everybody else. He's not erasing history. There's no such thing as erasing history. If you know about it, then how is he erasing it? How can you erase something that you know about? If you know about it, he's not erasing it. Now, he might not have it up on the wall anymore. It might not be on the website anymore. It doesn't mean it didn't happen. And again, history is literally a story. Just because someone doesn't agree with the story that you agree with does not mean that they're wrong. It doesn't mean that you're right. FDR was president, Carlos says, for 12 or 13 years, term limits after that. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, thank you for sharing that. I didn't know that. Serena, oh, you bought Work on Your Game? Where'd you buy it? Did you get it on Amazon? Hopefully not, Serena. Hopefully you didn't get that book on Amazon. All my books are on Amazon, but I suggest none of you buy my books off Amazon. I suggest you buy them directly from us. We sell them straight on our own web pages, our own websites, and our own sales funnels, and we give you a better deal than Amazon gives you. Guaranteed. Thank you, Marky Man. AJ said, Trump asked what books you got to sound smart. Oh, AJ, I'm going to say no. I'm going to push back on that and say no. I think as an entrepreneur and a person who understands business and understands branding, I'm talking about him, not me, but him. You don't get that by just, what did he do? Just roll out of bed and all of a sudden he just figured things out? I think you have to get some type of knowledge from somewhere. He didn't get that from college. College doesn't teach you how to be an entrepreneur. College doesn't teach you how to build a brand, especially back when we didn't have the internet. Where do you get that from? And I mean, why not just accept that maybe he reads books? What's wrong with just admitting that he probably reads books? What's the point? Why would he front about reading books? And again, this is way back. This is like, I'm talking like the 90s. Somebody told me they had that experience with him. What reason did he have to plant that seed? Was he thinking in 2025 somebody's going to be on a website called TikTok talking about it? I don't know about that one. Planet said you can't erase history. No, you can't. So he understands business and people. Yes. Reading comprehension. No. Well, what do you mean? How do you know whether he can read? Why do you keep trying to make this assertion? And where are you getting this from? You're not a fan of Trump, clearly, but just saying that he can't read, really? Like, is that what you got? That's the best thing you got now? All these comments, that's the best thing you got is that he can't read? What grade are you in? Serena said, I bought it on Audible so I can listen to it while working. Okay, I don't have a problem you getting it on Audible. If you want to get an audio book, I don't have a problem with that. But if you want to get any of my books physically, get them from our sites because we give you a better deal and we got funnels so we can get you more than one book because who reads one book? If you read books plural. Nobody reads just one book. Cheryl said, there was a survey done with multimillionaires. Most of them said they read at least 1 to 2 books a month. I'm guessing this rest of your comment. The average CEO reads like 100 books a year, and the average person doesn't read at all. So any of you plan on being a CEO or get to the level of a CEO, whatever you think that is, you should probably open a book and read it. Audio book, digital book. What's the other one? Physical book, whatever you like. I still read physical books, but I listen to audiobooks more than I used to. I used to sit down and read books, but as life has sped up, I get on audiobooks now. Joe said Trump wrote multiple books. How can y'all say he can't read? Exactly. I said that earlier. Trump definitely got started due to his daddy. AJ, come on. Okay, let's say your daddy got you started. Your daddy got you started too. The question is, what did he get you started on? And secondly, Donald Trump's dad wasn't famous. Donald Trump's famous. So whatever start he got from his dad, he took it from where it was to where it's at. And why do people keep bringing that up? Trump got started because his dad had money. Number one. So All right. Wouldn't you want everyone who's listening to this who uses that as a criticism of Trump? Wouldn't it be great if your dad had started you off with some money? If your dad didn't start you off with some money, you shouldn't be mad at Trump because he had money. You should be mad at your dad for not giving you money. If anything, why are you mad at him? His dad got him money. Here's the second thing. If you have kids or you are a man listening to this right now, you should hope that your kids get to start off with some money the same way that Trump did. And if they don't, whose responsibility is that? Yours, because you're the dad. So your kids should start off with some money too. And number three, the America offers so much upward mobility that the majority of millionaires and billionaires in the United States right now are all first generation. The majority, more than half, are all first generation millionaires and billionaires. Therefore, any of you who says, well, Trump started off with money, as if, what does that mean? That means him becoming a billionaire is not a thing just because he started off with some money. So what? If you start off with zero, that means you should at least be able to get to a millionaire then, right? In one lifetime, because America offers the upward mobility for everybody to do it. So I don't understand why people always bring up, well, Trump started off with money as if that means he didn't do anything. He did something. And again, since the majority of millionaires and billionaires are first generations, no one listening to this has any excuse if your goal was to make a whole bunch of money. Not everybody has that as a goal. If your goal was to make a bunch of money, you have no excuses, even if you started with nothing. You can start in debt and become rich. Trump was $6 billion in debt. He's a billionaire to this day. So what excuses anybody else have? And again, how much money your kids going to have? Yeah, I mean, if you want to make it about daddy leaving money, okay. How much money your kids going to get from daddy? If it's about that, none of you have an excuse. Sure. Cheryl said, Richard Childress has a lot of money. His kids didn't become famous. Money doesn't make you famous. Yes, I know. That's what I'm saying. A bunch of people are famous. A bunch of people have a lot of money and nobody knows them. A bunch of people who would be on the Forbes 400 list are not even on the list because they don't want anyone to know that they have money. Most people who have that kind of money don't want anyone to know that they got it. Read the book called The Millionaire Next Door. Any of you who hasn't read that book. Most people who have a bunch of money, no one knows they have money. They're not on Instagram taking pictures next to cars. That's the small percentage of people. In a country and world with zero future, why would anyone want children? Okay. All right, AJ. Thank you for your contribution today. Kudos said, my brother's a millionaire. We started off poor. Be what you want to be. Yes, that's correct. Just Plain Fit said, dumb comment about Trump receiving money. Well, I receive money from our parents. Speak for yourself. The comment, I'm talking about the kind of money Trump inherited. Trump's dad did have a business. He was a real estate guy, and he had a significant amount of money, let's just say. Most of us didn't inherit that kind of money from our parents. I know I didn't. I can only speak for myself. Thank you for the rose, Amber. Mickey said, people feel being self-made makes you more humble and less arrogant. Okay. I mean, I know some people may think that, but again, if we look at the actual data, then again, there's really no basis point to stand on this whole conversation, because if the majority of people who are quote unquote the rich are first generation, that means no one has an excuse. So even if someone else started off with money, that doesn't mean you can't do it. You don't need to start off with money. Again, look at the data. If you believe it, again, now maybe you don't believe the data. So Tig Gray said, love listening to you. You are truthful. Thank you. All right, everybody, we're wrapping this one up. I do need to go to the bathroom because I didn't take a bathroom break today. I usually do. I do these live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. I will tell you what I'm planning on talking about tomorrow. But again, anything I announce that I'm going to talk about tomorrow is all pending if any other news bumps it off the headlines. Because last week, that black kid stabbing a white kid in Texas bumped it off the headlines for 2 days and bumped my schedule back. So this whole, if you are a Trump supporter, you voted against your self-interest. We're going to talk about that. That is tentatively the topic for tomorrow. Tentatively. I might talk about something else depending on what happens in the news, because we know if they don't have a story, they will make one. So I do these lives 8 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. If you like this one, come back tomorrow. If you hated this one, come back tomorrow. If you like my comment responses, come back tomorrow. If you didn't like my comment responses, come back tomorrow, because I'm going to do more of it tomorrow. Now, if you like this topic, come back tomorrow. If you didn't like this topic, good. Tomorrow there'll be a different topic. Come back tomorrow. Make sure you follow my YouTube channel. The link is in my TikTok profile. So all the replays of anything I do is on YouTube. And follow me on Instagram. That link is also in there. And if you want to get my new book, here I am selling books. You want to get a copy of my new book. It's called The Sales Discipline System. How to use the 8 key disciplines of top salespeople in any industry to say goodbye to up and down months and inconsistent habits, written by me. I wrote this book and I read it, AJ. So I actually do read books. All right, Sales Discipline System. You can get that at salesdisciplinebook.com. That link is in my profile as well. Everybody have a great Wednesday. I got to go to the bathroom. I will see y'all tomorrow. Work on your game. We out of here.